Day 3 of the candidates in Yekaterinburg, Russia. It was the round before arrest day, and the 8 contenders were back to do battle for a precious win. Co-leader Fabiano Caruana blitzed out some amazing preparation, but Ding Liren defended like a beast and won the game to keep himself in contention in the tournament. The players are refreshed and ready to continue the fight for the title. Round 4 of exciting action coming up next.
From Yekaterinburg, Russia, it's the 4th round of the 2020 Candidates Tournament to determine the challenger to Magnus Carlsen for all the glory, for the World Championship. But first, they have to go through each other. I'm Grandmaster Alejandro Ramirez here with Grandmaster Yasser Seirawan.
Namaste.
Pleasure to be here. Tell us, it's been only 3 rounds of the event, but already some scintillating stories.
No question about it. Hello, Alejandro. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for live coverage of round 4. As Alejandro was saying, 3 action-packed rounds, and it was that 3rd round, especially during the free day, that I really thought about a lot. Specifically, the game between Ding Liren and Fabiano. What a game. Extraordinary preparation by Fabi was met and rebuffed by Ding Liren, who stood 0-2 at the time that he did this. And his tournament would have been absolutely, absolutely over, but he fought back and won. It was quite a tale. Alejandro, let's take a look at the standings
and
after
it changed,
3 rounds.
That game changed things considerably because
absolutely.
Before that we had 4 leaders. That would be
4-way tie for first.
A 4-way tie for first between Maxime Vachier-Lagrave, Jan Nepomniachtchi, and Wang Hao. All of them drew their games, so they moved up to 2 points out of 3. But Fabiano Caruana was relegated just a bit and is half a point away from the leaders currently, with Alexander Grischuk, both of them at 50%. Anish Giri, Kirill Alexenko, and Ding Liren make a very tight-packed race.
Yes.
All of them only odd -1.
Right.
So the difference between first and last is currently 1 point.
Right.
Very, very close event.
Very close. And the format, Alejandro.
It's a double round robin in Russia. That means that every single player will have equal number of whites and blacks. That makes it a fair tournament. 100 minutes for the first 40 moves, 50 minutes for the next 20. And once you reach move 60, you get another 15 minutes for the rest of the game. All throughout, you'll have a 30-second increment. It's a very, very long time control.
Right.
No draw offers before black's 40th move. €500,000 in prize fund, but that pales in comparison to even getting 2nd place to the tournament. This qualifies you to the World Championship. Everybody's going to be playing here for just that spot, really nothing else.
Exactly. And the schedule.
We are playing in a format of 3 games and a rest day, 3 games and a rest day. And of course, today is round 4. The weekend is starting. Tomorrow we'll have another round, Monday as well. But Tuesday, you can see the green line there. It represents the breaks that we'll have. That is going to be a rest day, Yasser.
Absolutely. And the players, after this rest day, I really expect them to bring it to today for round 4.
Well, let's take a look at some of the events and breaking news that we have from round 4 with Maurice Ashley.
Well, thank you, Alejandro. Indeed, the event so far has been absolutely cantankerous. Crazy games, amazing preparation, beautiful endgame technique. Will we see more of that today? Well, the games have begun. They've been going on now for a couple of hours, and we don't have the same kinds of crazy rock'em sock'em affairs that we've had so far. This one game is one of the more imbalanced games. It's between Ding Liren and Anish Giri. Ding Liren, of course, won what just had to be one of the more heroic defensive affairs we've seen in a long time, and he's going to try to keep that momentum going. This position is not exactly your wildest one ever, and the move A4 has been played by Anish Giri. Of course, Anish wants to keep going solidly until he can take his chances chances because he is, of course, tied in last place along with Ding Liren. But players who are not tied for last, in fact, on the flip side, tied for first, are these three. Let's take them one at a time. Maxime Vachier-Lagrave, the pride of France. He started off this tournament with a draw against Caruana and then had a boss win against Ding Liren. He wasn't even supposed to be here, but now with his draw against Giri, he is tied atop the leaderboard. And Nepomniachtchi, the Russian superstar, now number 4 on the planet. He started off with a win, and an amazing win at that against Anish Giri. We haven't seen games like that in a while. But he has now settled down a bit, and he has made 2 draws against his Russian compatriots, Grishchuk and Alexenko. And finally, a surprise, a bit of a surprise, number 7 seed in this tournament, but one of the finest players on the planet, Wang Hao. He won a comeback game against Ding Liren in round 1. But what a finish. Once he got his chance, he made the most of it. Then that draw against Giri, he's got to be feeling like, man, I should have won that one. He'd be in first right now. But then a draw against Grishchuk, and he is, instead of being clear first, only tied. But we'll see how the games transpire today. Not as crazy as we said as the games from previous rounds, but you'd expect the players to slow down a little bit. Let's see if they can find some chances as the games continue.
Thank you, Maurice. And let's take a look at all the pairings, shall we?
Of course, we got to see that Ding Liren Anish Giri game, but a crucial one for the standings is that first one. Fabiano Caruana versus Jan Nepomniachtchi, the Russian player, one of the tied for first places. Wang Hao is currently playing Kirill Alexenko. Maxime Vachier-Lagrave is in a complicated Berlin struggle against Alexander Grishchuk, which is becoming a bit sharper by the second. We might actually have to switch to that one pretty quickly.
Exactly.
And that's going to determine a lot of things. Maxime, with the white pieces, he likes taking this Berlin endgames.
He's one of the few players in the world that's willing as white just to go right into this ending.
Right into the endgame. And of course, we can pull that game up because I do think it's interesting, but of course, it's Grishchuk. And what do we say when Grishchuk plays chess?
Well, it's time trouble.
It's time trouble. Time trouble is looming as he only has 8 minutes left on the clock.
Wow, and strangely enough, like a lot of these Berlin ending games, it is actually double-edged for a position that remarkably quiet. It's double-edged. Okay, a big repeat of an earlier game that Grishchuk played against Nepo. There was like a King H2. Remember the game went like King H2,
Rook B1, Rook B4, Rook F4.
It was kind of strange. No. Maxine said, look, I play directly.
Yes.
Let me boot your knight. That we saw a trade. The knight came back to E7, which is very, very common.
Has been played before.
It really feels like they were just playing it a la tempo.
Yeah, it does feel like this is an MVL game from MVL and Hikaru.
From
it was like a
Grand Chess Tour?
Yeah. I think, I've been told that H4 is a novelty. I believe that game went King G2.
Which seems...
G4 was played in that game, I'm being told. So I had some memory, but not exactly.
Right. G3, G4, previous outing by MVL, by the way.
Yeah.
H4, okay, with not too big a change as far as I can tell. Knight D5, all looks very standard. Now this move...
Bishop C1.
Okay, basically offering a pawn.
Saying I want to keep my bishop.
And once you played H4 and Bishop C1, then it's prep. I mean, that's, for me, is very clear that MVL wanted this position. Knight A4, by the way, is a nifty little move. The knight gets out of the way. For some reasons, I'm not quite sure, the engine didn't like Knight D5. The engine said,
It's one of those positions that's very difficult to analyze even with an engine, because the difference between a 0.00 and the other 0.00 can be very subtle, and only with some practical knowledge of the position do you realize, well, this position is actually easier to play over the board compared to this one, and it's real mess to try to analyze this even with an engine, and that's why a lot of people have been shying away
from these endings.
From these endgames.
The subtleties required are really quite confounding.
But this is the candidates. I mean, and MVL has been practicing this kind of endgames for quite a while now, getting a ton of experience. He's won a couple of games, important games in this position that's been able to create some pressure. But let's take a look at the tactics. Rook f3 played.
With the very stone-cold idea of going after this f7 pawn. By the way, do keep in mind there is a latent discovered attack. So even ideas like knight f7 and bishop h6 do exist. So be careful for them. Bishop d5, tempo against the rook. Rook f4. Again, all of these moves, in a very strange way, are rather forcing. And c2, c4 is a potential as well. That explains the move knight b6.
Yeah, if you put the knight on c5, something like c4 might ask your bishop where it wants to go.
Right, one of these days.
Yeah.
Okay, now there you go. Everybody is teaming up against this pawn on f7, and Grishuk, I think, did a very good move. We got his rook off the potentially dangerous h6 square, and by the way, reminded White that g3 is hanging in some variations. Rook f5.
Rook f5, it's very direct chess as well. It just wants to play h5. And move the rook out of the g file that indirectly defends that pawn on g3.
Because yes, so you can't take it once on f7 because g3 is hanging with check. So rook f5 sets up the very purposeful, as you say, the move h5, pushing the rook so that knight f7 is possible. Bishop c4, trying to be as irritating and as annoying as possible.
And irritating he is being. I mean, the attack of the rook is not trivial.
Exactly.
It seems many times that you attack one of these rooks and, okay, I'll move it. Problem is that if you attack this rook and I play rook d8, suddenly you have to contend with the fact that rook d1 check will win your bishop.
Right. So I really want to play h5, but rook f2, as you're saying, invites rook d8 and rook d1. So, I mean, it's actually a very, very double-edged affair.
Yeah.
Okay.
But we have more news on other games. Maurice, what's up?
Indeed, what may end up being a big development in the game between Caruana and Nepomniachtchi has occurred. Take a look at this. The Indians wanted to play some kind of equalizing move, bishop to d6, maybe even bishop to c5, which looks pretty remarkable given that this d-pawn is trying to race down the board. But this move, queen a3, can be met by a surprising rejoinder. We see the queen trade, of course, is possible, but this pawn is hanging, so you think, okay, what is he going to do about that? It turns out he can completely ignore it with the move queen d1, and also avoiding this queen on a3. You can't even offer a trade anymore. And the problem is there's a threat that could happen soon after g3, bishop f4, and d6. That's the thing that black has to avoid. Now, you might say, well, what if he just plays a move like bishop to d6? Well, suddenly you have a problem. Queen d4, that just chases your bishop backwards. You're going to have to put it back on f8. And now we can go for the g3 idea. No propets or any weirdness. Bishop f4 is coming. Your piece is tied down. This bishop is super tied down to this square, and white is dominant. He's got the mate problem, the d6 threat, and black is going to be in big trouble in this position, actually dead lost. So this is a key move, though, to find in the first place. Our retreating move, it doesn't seem like the hardest move in the world to see, as queen takes a2 is obviously death after d6. His pawn is just flying down the board. So it's no big deal for somebody like Fabi to notice, I don't have to trade queens, and you can't take my pawn. Will he find queen d1? I think the odds are quite high.
Absolutely. It looks like a very nice move, in fact.
Yes, sir. Let's go through this game from the beginning.
Right.
Because how did we get to this kind of endgame?
Yeah, okay. Well, first of all, as we know, Jan is die-in-the-wool Grunfeld player.
And one of the nice things for players that are looking at their opponents, well, there's two Grunfeld players. We must have something against them. We're going to play d4.
Exactly. And there's MVL as well. And now Fabi...
And Geary, if you...
Yeah, and Geary. Yeah. And Fabi used to be a Grunfeld player himself. Whenever I see games between two top-notch players who played the same opening, I'm really intrigued.
Yes.
Because I'm sitting there saying, okay, Fabi loved to play the Grunfeld himself. So what does Fabi think is the most dangerous line against the Grunfeld? And, first of all, we get the classical Grunfeld. These days, people are playing bishop d2, and I don't know, bishop g5, and bishop f4.
A lot of different little sidelines.
Yes, the sidelines seem to be dominant. Even h4, by the way, sidelines seem to be...
h4 immediately, I mean, Grunfeld, boom, h4 on the board. Yeah, we've seen some great games being played in those positions.
Amazing. But, okay, what happened? Holy cow! It's classical.
The classical. I think people have been really exploring this bishop e3, knight f3 type setups.
Exactly.
Or bishop e3, queen d2. I've seen quite recently.
I think I want to call it the modern Grunfeld.
The modern classical Grunfeld. Even though it makes almost no sense, but yes.
The bishop c4 / knight e2 setup.
Oh, this is good old school stuff. Yeah.
Old school stuff. So the funny thing is, I was actually raised on the old school stuff, so now I'm really, really intrigued.
Yes.
Knight c6, very, very standard moves.
Bishop e3.
And now b6. Now here, there are queen c7, there are other moves.
Yeah,
but
bishop g4, well, you might
bishop
obviously
G4,
very familiar, as it was
the World Championship matches between Kasparov and Karpov.
Of course.
Where Gary would play knight a5, and Karpov captured on f7, and then they played quite a number of games in those World Championship matches.
Yeah, the problem is the computers got invented and we realized it was just bad for black.
Exactly. And then came bishop, and there was this line of play, which was also
very dangerous as well.
Yeah, it was all the rage for quite some time, and I remember Grandmaster Larry Christensen really enjoying these kinds of attacking ideas. Okay, but b7, b6 certainly has...
it's the modern way of playing this position.
Exactly. It's, I wanted to say USDA approved, as in the theoreticians find b6 to be one of the best ways of playing. Captures on c5, wasn't there Aronian's games?
There's more than a few games. I think Aronian was white has taken on c5, and I think after you take on c5, queen c7 is considered to be correct.
Exactly. So trust me when I say this is a really, really well explored. But queen d2, main line. So all of these moves really struck me as main line until we got to... Well,
yeah, h4 is the novelty of the game. f3 had been played before, and I believe that there are quite a few games, I want to say about 20 or 25 Grandmaster level games in this position.
Yes.
But h4 seems to be all the rage. It doesn't really matter where in the Grunfeld you play h4. It just seems that at some point you should play h4. And the more I analyze this type of Grunfeld positions, the more I've myself realized that h4 is so useful for white.
It's like a really annoying move for the second player, too, because white's making luft, but he's also trying to be irritating. And just, are you going to play h5?
And this is one of the positions where you can see the advent of engines. Engines love this h4, h5 trick. And I think for a long time in the Grunfeld, this was considered to be completely innocuous.
Exactly.
You put the pawn on h5 and so what? You can't open the h file. There's no rook on h1. Even if there was a rook on h1, you're not going to mate black. You don't mate the fianchetto just by opening the h file. But people realize it's not the point. Actually, AlphaZero and Leela and all these modern engines and the new versions of Stockfish, they love putting the pawn on h6. Just cramping down black's style, saying it's worth the 3 tempo.
Wow.
It takes me to get the pawn all the way there. And you can see in these positions that Favi even allows the trade of a bunch of pieces. He plays a move h6. Nepo even has the option of going into an endgame of 3 minor pieces against 3 minor pieces. And
by trading queens at this moment.
At this moment. And for this exact position, Favi's played instantly. This is all prep.
Wow.
And it's actually very unpleasant. I woke up this morning, and I was getting ready, trying to analyze the position a bit. And I didn't find any quality that was easy or straightforward for black. It felt like black could defend the endgames. If you sat down and you really thought about it, you would defend an unpleasant position. But then I thought a couple of things. First of all, this is Jan Nepomniachtchi. Since when is Jan Nepomniachtchi known to grab an endgame
with
and
both hands,
sit down and defend? That's what Giri does. That's what Ding Loren does. That's what sometimes Favi does.
Exactly, but that's not the style that we come to appreciate with him.
No, Jan likes dynamism. He likes a lot of pieces. He likes counterbalances. He likes sharp positions. He likes to get a preparation like what Giri did and shred it over the board. He likes those complications. But this one I thought was a very clever position because it's more or less 2 results. White's a bit better in most endgames, and he'll never really be defending. Yes, you know that in the Grunfeld, this pawns on a7 and b6, they can become dangerous in the long run. You've always seen them, push down and create a passer. But right now they're very far from it. The knight on a5 is misplaced. The bishop on f8 is not doing the usual controlling of the pawns.
Patrolling the long diagonal, that's right.
The endgames that you think where these pawns are dangerous usually involve rooks, where they're already sitting behind the pawns. Here they're already traded.
And yet for all of the things that you're pointing out, you know, if you went back into the 50s and 60s, 70s or 80s, they would say, black's fine. Yeah, but they wouldn't really appreciate the pressure that the h6 pawn is putting on black's position. Maurice, jump in here.
Well, I'll let you guys get back to analyzing that, but I just want to quickly make a note of something that's happening in the game between Wang Hao and Kirill Alexenko. In this position, let's go. Actually, it was this moment. He played bishop f1, queen takes b3. And Wang Hao sat here for a while. And he'd been thinking and thinking, and I'm wondering, why is he taking so long? Well, obviously he has two choices, either knight takes or pawn takes. So he goes into a deep tank, and he comes back out and decides finally to play pawn takes, which, of course, offers a straightforward trade on the A-line. And so his opponent played rook takes A1, and he goes into a deep think again. It's like, what's going on? It looked like two very simple moves, and you figure after you've decided to play A takes B3 that you're ready to capture back on A1 when the guy trades, and he's back in a deep think here. And wondering why? Well, rook takes, which takes over the A file, is met by rook to C8, and now black is thinking about putting pressure on the position, and black's basically fine here. So it's surprising that he went for this big thing. By the way, after rook takes A1, if it was bishop takes, well, he might have wanted the A file, but now black takes the A file. That didn't seem that hard to calculate when he was back on deciding to play A takes B3 over knight takes, but now he's here. Two what looked like straightforward exchanges has sent him spiraling into wasting about, it looks like 30 minutes maybe on the clock. You wouldn't think that this is what he would be deeply thinking about, not some wild complications. Anyway, back to you guys.
No, that is actually quite funny.
Yeah.
Taking a long time on one of two captures and then taking another long think of one or two captures.
It does seem strange. Well, going back to the position, you were saying the understanding previously was that this endgames, they should be okay.
Right.
And I think that technically they should be okay.
Right.
But it requires some precision for black. You're a little bit playing against your opponent, a little bit playing the position, a little bit saying, look, it is a bit better for white. In the long run, you do have to defend.
Right.
So let's
here, I think I might have, again, Jan being the type of player that you had mentioned, he likes the complications, was not eager to trade queens. I think I might have been the one trading queens here as black. He played bishop F8 immediately, and then D5. E7, E6, knight C3.
And that was the end of the possibilities of trading queens.
Exactly.
Now you have to play either a queen type of endgame or some kind of minor piece endgame in which white is the one proposing the exchange of queens because you can no longer force it.
Exactly. This defense of the pawn on d5, now white is actually, well, this knight on a5 is being uncomfortable. I think it's time to play knight c4.
And this is a very curious decision here by Fabiano. He thinks for 15 minutes after the move knight c4. And there's, in my view, two clear moves here. You can either move the bishop on e3, or you can take on e6. Those would be the moves that more or less I consider. And then he takes on c4. And sometimes when you see a bishop, you really don't want to trade it for a knight.
Exactly.
But he has a very specific continuation in mind.
It's very forcing.
It's very forcing. Queen d2 is a very nice move. Notice that you can't play bishop b4 in this position. It seems very tempting.
Yeah, which is very, exactly, thank you, very tempting move. The knight being pinned.
Yeah, but it's a problem. You take on e6, and again, the power of the pawn on h6. You can't actually take on c3. There's queen d8 followed by e7. No perpetuals, so you just lose.
Yeah, so just to complete the line, as you were pointing out, queen takes. And here, do you want to play this, or do you want to take on f7?
But there's no e7. There's queen a1 and queen e5, so you have to take on f7, sorry.
Right, but you are picking back the piece, and you're picking, at the end of the day, you're very happy with white after, for example, king g8.
And that one actually even
gets mated. Even mated.
Yeah.
Wow, okay. Sorry. So after queen d7, I have to actually block with the bishop. Now you're taking, and, well, what else to do? Do you think this was a part of his prep, too? I mean,
No, I don't think so, because by this point, he had already thought for quite a while.
Okay. So we're assuming that position is very, very advantageous for white. It sure looks that way to it. So he wasn't afraid of bishop b4, so he took.
And then
knight takes d5.
Now, the problem is, again, the dark squares.
Yeah, knight f6 check is really very frightening. The knight had to go, and that was where we got to this exact position.
And after queen a3, Fabi spent a considerable amount of time, about 15 minutes, to think, and he played the move queen c2. Not the move queen d1, which was the one that Maurice was recommending.
I like the move queen d1 because I wanted to keep this pawn, you know, the option of playing pawn to d6.
But queen c2 also looks quite challenging to me. I mean, the plan is the same. You go g3, bishop f4, and at some point you start pushing. You use the mate threats.
To combining the mate threats on g7 with ideas like queen c6 and d6 and pushing the pawn. So, and basically, I see this as being a position really where the passed d5 pawn is dominating all the action. I mean, that is the most dangerous pawn in the position, and black is the one who has to maintain if he's able. So not a very nice position, I think, for Nepo.
Not so much. I think queen c2, and you start calculating things. And some of the reasons that even a fast player like Nepomniachtchi is thinking, you can see that he's been thinking 15 minutes here, 15 minutes there in the last couple of moves. It's because a move like, for example, bishop c5.
Which is a move you want to play to stop queen c6.
It might lose on the spot. We're not saying that it might be a little bit worse for black. It might just lose on the spot. You could take on c5, force you to take with the queen, and then you have to analyze, is this endgame...
the ending.
The endgame. I think the endgame is just lost for black.
Holy smokes. It's just because you have to...
You get to c4 first.
Oh, well, then it's over.
Yeah. And I think the tempi with... And this is what their players are calculating.
Right.
The tempi on both sides, from what I can see, and, well, the engine is telling me I'm right.
Yeah, well, the bar just went through the roof.
That there should be a way to zugzwang black in this position.
Exactly.
And once you pick up the c5, the pawn, the rest is
That's
trivial.
easy. Yeah,
the rest is trivial.
Okay, that was funny because I wasn't even thinking about the queen. I was thinking that he was playing queen b2,
no,
threatening the checkmate.
I'm not that subtle, Yasser. I'm like,
okay, yeah. Well, king and pawn endgames. If they're winning, they're winning. This is actually was going through my mind was like why you were as black, why you're reluctant to trade the dark square bishops. It does have a drawback. The g7 square.
So before we go into a deeper analysis, let me remind the viewers that we do have a phone number for you to call if you want to join here in the conversation. If you have any questions, call us at 314-361-5465. Lines are open, and we'll be happy to take questions.
No, we really enjoy it when the audience comes in with some really good ones.
And we've had some good ones in this show. We've actually had excellent ones. Queen c2, queen a5 played.
On the
Maurice,
board.
You seem to be very excited about that.
Well, the engines are going crazy right now. This queen a5 move simply looks deplorable after what move?
Queen c6.
Queen back to d1 again. This time even stronger because the queen no longer guards the d6 square. So white has gained energy off this move. If the queen was at least on the diagonal, you could say, well, at least d6 is not a threat. But now d6 is a threat. And the idea is, with the queen here, queen b4 may have been better to control, to possibly have a queen e1 check, but make sure you maintain the control over d6. But this move, queen a5, it makes the queen seem woefully misplaced. The threat of d6 on the board, the threat of putting a queen on d4 on a dominant diagonal potentially, it looks like he's virtually forced to play the move bishop to d6. Not exactly what you want him to do, given that this diagonal is still such a problem. And now the move g3 and queen d4 is coming. Bishop f4 could potentially come. This one is starting to look extremely dangerous. Maybe he didn't find queen d1 the first time with queen c2, but will he find it now? Queen d1 is a monster move, and it will absolutely give white an advantage.
Wow,
it does feel like a
Maurice.
Very unpleasant endgame.
I love the move queen d1, and this is their matchups. By the way, nice for Jan.
The only win that Jan has against Fabiano Caruana, the only decisive game, was from the Grand Chester in Croatia, where Jan was completely busted. And came out like a zombie from the dead and even managed to win that game. That was like
amazing turnaround. Yes. That's exactly right. I remember that. And Jan started that tournament so very, very well.
Crushing.
Like 3 out of 3. Okay, after queen a5, queen d1, why is this game so important? Well, because of our standings. Again, let me just remind everybody, Jan is coming into this round tied for first with +1, Fabi at 50%. They could reverse places should Fabi pick up a point. And after that loss to Ding Liren, I mean, this tournament just keeps, topsy-turvy churning each and every round. I love this move, queen d1.
Yeah, I realized I need a little bit more coffee because queen d1, bishop d6, and I was thinking, why don't you just play queen d4 analogously to the other variation?
I was waiting for checkmate in one, and Bobby Fischer, in his Bobby Fischer Teaches Chess book, would be the first person to point out to you why that didn't work. There's a backward checkmate. There you go.
So queen d1 is being played.
Has been played?
No,
but will be played. We reckon.
Can be played. But I was thinking queen c4 also looks very nice to me.
And could I also queen c4?
So queen c6 I really liked until I realized that queen takes a2 is possible, and that's when I stopped liking the move.
And let's just continue because
unfortunately you can't play d6. I pick up the pawn for free. I go queen a1 check.
And this is the tactic. That was why Maurice has been drumming the table for g3.
Yes.
And king g2 and bishop f4. Now after this check, oops.
Yeah, you pick up my beauty.
Well, there's nothing else to say. So that was why you were reluctant to play queen c6. You didn't want to lose the a2 pawn, but queen c4.
I liked queen c4 just because it kept control over the entire board.
Yeah, and you're still you haven't
given up. I still
given
want to play g3, king g2. I keep control over the c5 square, so the bishop doesn't ever go there.
The drawback I can imagine from White's point of view is that these pawns on a7 and b6 don't play a factor. So maybe queen c4, you're encouraging black to, I don't know, try to utilize the pawn?
Right, but I was trying to coax you into playing b5. The reason I don't like b5 for black is that as soon as I enter the 8th rank, you've given up the c5 square for me.
Okay, that's a different matter. The pawn was on b6.
Just a quick announcement that he has found the move queen d1, so this is largely irrelevant. But
which is a great move.
Which is a great move.
Quite relevant, guys, because here's the thing. Black does have this queen e1 idea. And the point of queen e1 is that you can play queen d1. That's a different spot.
Yes.
But nice.
Yasser, we have a guest with us, a phone call from Tennessee. Tell us your name and your question.
Yeah, hey, this is, can you hear me all right?
Yes.
All right, cool. This is Michael Shuey. I live in Jackson, Tennessee. And, watching this for the past, 3 or 4 days, I got to thinking in terms of, like the COVID-19, and when we think about how, for example, the NBA is on pause and potentially other sports are on pause, with the chess production studio that you guys have, is there any real big let's say, opportunity, especially in a time like this, to really get on the table, because the production is really good, and when sports like NBA have been on pause for a minute, it just seems like a big opportunity to really put this, I think you guys do a great job and have great quality, so I'm just curious what your thoughts are in that context.
Well, Michael, first of all, thank you so much for the question, and the answer is yes. Yes, the internet, streaming, chess lends itself perfectly for online lessons, online coaching, online entertainment. And as we came into studio today, you were telling me about your wife who's taking salsa lessons online. It's like, what?
Online, and that is pretty crazy when you think about it. Chess is so well suited to the online spectator. We've been doing this for a while without having people tell us, you have to be in quarantine.
Right.
We can analyze, we can transmit. Our crew is relatively small, so we're allowed to gather.
Right.
But
we would love it.
We would,
honestly,
we would love to have
it would
more
be great.
exposure. And the numbers for this tournament, I mean, you were mentioning how many people in China, a lot of them are being still in quarantine.
Right.
Even some of the major cities are just starting to resume normal life. 1 million people watching
Yes.
the candidates.
Hu Yifan and Peng over there in Russia are giving commentary in Mandarin, and 1 million Chinese, and I believe it was day one, by the way.
Day one, yeah.
Yeah, and it may have been picked up a lot more, right? Because that's the way these chess tournaments go. As they go on, more and more people become aware of it. So yeah, we think that chess is great, that the internet is perfect for us, and we would love to do more. So anybody wants to come along with some kind of encouraging offers,
we're here.
We're here. We're here. Maurice, do you have? No, not for the moment. He's looking something up.
But I do think
Should we take a look at another of our tournament leaders?
Yeah, just to finish on the thought,
Please.
I think there was a lot of controversy surrounding the candidates because
Yes.
it's
Should
still
it
hanging.
happen?
Should it happen? It's still hanging over the heads of a lot of players.
Right.
Whatever the correct decision was, probably
Forget it. It's gone.
It's gone. The tournament is happening.
Right.
And it is an opportunity for chess.
No question.
We have probably one of the most important events going on right now in the entire world. So many things got canceled.
Right.
But we still have the pleasure of being able to see the candidates unfold without really a major hiccup. They're relatively secluded in Yekaterinburg. They're taking extreme precautions with the players. Yeah, some of them are not happy. One of them even withdrew. There's a lot of controversy for sure around this tournament. This will go down in history as a controversial candidate.
No question.
No questions about it. I mean, people will, no matter who wins this tournament, people will say, this was hanging over the players' heads. Was this really the best player we could have chosen?
Right.
But this is where we are. This is the production we have. These are the games we have, and the show must go on.
But having said all of that, and I agree, there's a lot of room for criticism. Man, what a show we've been fated to. I mean, those first 3 rounds.
You couldn't ask more from this tournament.
And Ding Liren, I mean, I think you used the word, and it's not hyperbole, heroic.
Heroic defense, absolutely.
It was unbelievable. We will go and we will talk about great comebacks. And you start 0-2, and the number 2 player in the world comes at you with some of the most prepared wickedness this world has ever seen, and you withstand it. It's
great stuff.
That is just great stuff. Let's pick up on one of our tournament leaders, Wang Hao. He is playing against, obviously, the lowest rated player in the tournament, the 8th seed. And, you know, he could have started 2-0. I mean, Wang Hao.
Yeah, Wang
could
Hao.
He could be having an amazing tournament right now. He could be like streaking away from the other players. And of course, when he's playing the lowest rated seed, he, like Fabiano before him, is looking at him and saying, I've got to target you. Knight e5. Okay, so for first of all, the rook is posted nicely and aggressively, but it can easily get kicked back.
Knight c8 is an important resource. If the rook could stay there stable on a7, it's really annoying. At some point, you kind of run out of moves.
Yeah, and the worst part is that even the rook on b8 might get pushed away.
And that's a real problem, because that's the only way you're holding that pawn on b7 right now.
With the rook. But, but because of the move, very important defensive move, knight c8, that rook is going to get the boot. But first place, Kirill says, no. I got to get rid of this knight on e5, get my pieces into the game a little bit. Bishop b5, thanks to the bishop on b2. Please, says Wang Hao, please take on e5, which would lengthen my diagonal of the bishop on b2. The d4 square could be an ideal
But if you don't take on e5, what else are you looking at? I'm not taking on d7 immediately, but it does feel unpleasant to leave the knight there. I feel I'm running out of moves. And I would love to analyze this position for a little bit longer, but Krystiuk has 1:40 left. And I want to see if that game has sharpened.
Oh my goodness, 1:40 left. Oh,
and just take me to the last few moves to see what's going on.
Remember when we left it?
You attacked my rook.
MVL had
bishop c4, rook e1.
Okay, had sacrificed a pawn.
H5, that makes sense. Kicking out the rook, g4 defends the pawn.
Okay, but for that pawn sacrifice, he's really advanced.
Rook h8. And now Maurice is yelling, and apparently the move a4 is very dangerous. Why is a4 very dangerous?
Okay.
All right.
I'm just having a hard time.
Well, bishop a3 seems problematic.
There is bishop a3. There's e5, e6.
Oh, that might actually
in the position. Okay, so let's. Okay, I'm a pawn grubber.
Right.
Okay. So I start with a check.
I assume I have to play e6.
Oh, you want to go e6 first? Okay, well, I've got to play f6.
There's no choice, because let's just show what happens.
Yeah. I mean, that's just death. That's nasty,
that
isn't
very
it?
Nasty.
The bishop on e6 is in a absolute pin. You cannot recapture on f7. So f6. Okay.
I assume I have to go knight f7 or something like this.
So that
I'm being told no, because there's a lot of hand waving that way.
Yeah.
Knight.
Poor Maurice. This is great.
Rook
he has a
e4.
microphone problem, so he's actually muted. I now know the secret of how to mute Maurice. I'm just going to pull out his microphone cord, and that's it. Yeah. I got the impression that once he's released,
it's penting up.
When he gets his chance to join the show, we're in real trouble. Brace yourself. The impact.
I'm glad he's tethered by the micro. He can't come here.
Nice. Okay, f6. Hold on. You haven't killed me yet.
All right. He says something like rook e4 from the hand signals I understood.
Rook e4.
Well, you attack the bishop.
Okay.
It's not rook e4 because the engine just screamed at me.
Yeah.
But apparently Maurice is back in business, guys.
We missed you, Maurice. We really did. Honest.
I'm going to stay calm. No, I'm not. Get out. Get
out of here.
No, a4. This is a very challenging move. As rook h6 seems like it was a mistake. He should have played more aggressively, did Grishchuk, but this move a4, releasing the bishop into the game, and now all of the pieces, you saw this activity by Maxime, he's gotten his chance. By the way, back here after this move, bishop to c4, he did have to back down because of the rook d8 idea. The Indians absolutely love that, and he played rook e1, and still rook d8 was the best move. But after king h7, h5, rook h6, g4, and now this move, rook to h8, that's what happens when you're in time pressure. You can't figure out all the niceties, and you feel like, let me just make a solid move. But black's pieces now are much less active than white's, and especially with his rook still in the corner. Let's get back to this a4 move. The reason why a4 is such a wonder, guys, is this move, rook e4,
really
comes out of nowhere. You are after that bishop, and the bishop is tethered to the f-pawn. What that means is you can't play a move like b5. Yeah, you know, I'm protecting everything because I'm killing this guy. This guy goes down, and then I'm taking this one, and it doesn't matter where you go. This is going to be painful. Rook takes. Knight is streaming. Pawn. You can't fix the position fast enough. This bishop will enter. This knight is headed to the e6 square, and you could see this position is just death. So the main idea, a4 doesn't.
Beautiful.
After you see it, you realize the problem is the bishop on c4. You're able to play this move because you want to play this anyway, and you just simply can't take because it's all about this piece. This piece is holding the entire position together. So a very straightforward idea, but being buttressed by tactics. So this move a4, very strong indeed. Now, he can play much more solidly. Don't take the pawn. Just back up. Get the heck out of here. Let you just not have any e6 action. And just go on the defensive after king to d7. Rook d1 check can be played. Now you have to start playing moves like knight to d5 and have the rook drop back. This one is sharp. Let's not even say it. Ooh. And there's a lot of moves left. He'll have to find all these defensive moves. But first of all, MVL has to find the move, a4.
Well, thank you.
Wow. Maurice. Welcome back, by the way. That was some good stuff you were sharing there. That rook takes c4. That was a wake-up.
That's visual. Once you see it, it's cool. You don't think about it immediately because well, you're on an endgame giving up a rook for a bishop.
Right.
But the more you analyze it, you think, oh,
rook
my God.
f7.
It's just crushing.
You take g7, you take c7, you put a knight on e6.
Yeah, sir. We do have a call from Rhode Island. So welcome to the show. Please give us your name and your question.
My name is Stephen Desmond, and I love you guys. You're doing a great job. I teach kids chess in schools after school. I'm a retired banker. And one thing I tell the kids in the chess pyramid is that even at the top, they make mistakes.
Oh, yes.
Grandmasters, chess champions. I remember Petrosian hung a rook against Bobby Fischer once. But my question to you guys is, and especially Yasser, whose games are like a Bible for me in the NIMZO, even though I don't know if anyone plays the classical variation anymore. When Wang Hao missed a key, crucial winning move, Rook E2, and of course we had Caruana, who a lot of, who's a top player, played that move. When I saw these moves live with you guys, he played H6. I was like, H6? And then he didn't put the bishop. I mean, those would have been automatic moves for me. How difficult is it for a high-level grandmaster to recover from an inaccuracy like that? Especially one that loses in the game.
Well, first of all, Stephen, you're a hero on the front line there. Anyone who's teaching chess in the retirement years, salute. Thank you so much for that. And then for your question, I think this is like one of the most difficult things, not just as a chess grandmaster, but for everyone to keep your objectivity even when you've just made a mistake and I made that mistake. But you've got to remain calm and just look at the position now. Forget about the past. So hard to do. Alejandro, how do you deal with it?
I think it's one of the toughest things to do, even when you are a very high-level player, is admitting a mistake. It's not so much that the mistake is going to change things in the position, but psychologically getting used to the fact that this move was bad and therefore the evaluation has changed. And a lot of those things, and we were mentioning this in Wang Hao's game, that he had that clarity of mind to stop going for the win and to actually just take the draw, say, okay, I've messed this up. Let's calm down. No reason to push this unnecessarily. Let's just make the draw because that's what I've made. I've made mistakes, and this is where I've landed. And I think that's incredibly problematic no matter what level you are. It's easier to play games where you don't make mistakes.
Sure.
You don't have to change your mindset. But we're humans, so we make mistakes all the time. All the time. It doesn't matter how strong you are. Chess gets more complicated. It gets faster. You compare previous eras to now, you're playing stronger opposition.
Yeah, exactly.
You're playing better defenders. And you are more likely to not be able to finish off an attack. You're more likely not to be able to defend a tough position. And having that mindset that this was a mistake, now this is the truth of the position, that really separates some great players, some pretty good players, even pretty good grandmasters, 2700s, that have a lot of problems adjusting.
Right. Now, let me ask you more specifically and drill down. 2800, number 2 player in the world, Fabiano, has just played some of the most gorgeous preparation of all time, come home with a big fat donut. Well, how does he get his mind overcome that?
That's a tough one. I think Team Fabi was lucky that there was a rest day.
Yes.
That's a beautiful time to recover psychologically, not push things. Sometimes you play on inertia. In chess, a lot of the time, especially when you have rounds after rounds, and you see that a lot in rapid and blitz chess when we have those tournaments where you lose 1 and you lose 5.
Right.
And the reason you do that is because you go down on some kind of tornado, and it just runs through you.
Right.
You don't think about what happened. You don't stop. And having the rest day, it gives you that ability. I don't know if they're taking walks, but
to recharge, rethink.
Yeah.
Jump in here, Maurice. Your difficulties in staying objective, staying cool.
Man, this particular topic the callers brought up, we could literally be on for the next 30 minutes, 45. We can remember stories from our careers. I mean, there's so much here. And there's so much psychology in chess. I'd like to make first, before I drill a little deeper, the first point that's really important to recognize is that back in the day, we really thought of the strongest players in the world virtually as gods. I mean, you saw a beautiful game by Tal, and then you see games by Fischer and Kasparov. This is just like gold. This is almost like you couldn't possibly improve on these moves. Then the darn computer showed up. And the computer started looking back at those games and they go, man, do you have any idea how many weak moves were being played? The defenders were defending like garbage. If they had just done this, the position would have been equal. And then you realize they weren't quite gods. They were just superhuman. They were not the average human beings. They were also making mistakes. And that's why somebody like Garry Kasparov would make it a habit after every single game. Lose, of course. Win, definitely so. Look and see, where did I mess up? Did I play perfectly or did I make mistakes? And usually he would find mistakes. You'd see Gary analyze in the informants and he'd say, yeah, this move was not the best move. This was not the best move. Okay, he didn't play the best response. Now I played a brilliancy. The rest was perfect. But anywhere he could look, today's players are aware of that. They are not gods. They don't play perfect moves. I don't care who you are, including Magnus Carlsen. Even in his best games, he's going to make that slight off move. He wants to improve. And so that's the reality you have to face. And with that in mind, then your psychology should be better. You realize it's not that easy for me to play great chess all the time. And sometimes I'm going to have great prep and screw up. And by the way, the thing about that great prep, Alejandro, I got to do something that normally I don't do. I got to agree with you. I got to admit that I misevaluated the situation. And that's the one with Ding Liren, how you said how great Ding Liren played. And I said, well, Fabi didn't play his best. But what I realized when I was thinking about it yesterday was Fabi sacrificed 2 pawns for a strong initiative. Right. That gives a huge responsibility on the person who sacrificed, no matter what position appears on the board now. Yeah, you've got the preparation. Yes, you have the initiative. But if it's a fresh position, you now have to follow through because guess what? You're down 2 pawns. Now, the guy might have a lot to do to fix his position, but you're still down 2 pawns. So if you don't show it, you're going to end up losing the game. And that's what Ding Liren did. Ding Liren said, show me exactly what you've got when we go out of your preparation, and now we're just fighting for our lives. And that's where Ding Liren proved to be superior to Fabi in that concrete battle.
Marvelous game. Just simply marvelous. Awesome game. Yeah. By the way, I would think we have another call.
Yes, I believe from Virginia. Again, your name and your question.
Philip.
Hello.
Philip.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. I think we're missing. Can you
turn your sound down, caller? Please turn down your sound if you want to speak.
Yes. Hello.
Hello. Yes, I think we got him now.
Okay. I wanted to ask any of the commentators, Alpha Zero and their offspring, or its offspring, are they really bringing something brand new to the game of chess? Have there been players that have played like that and are now being recognized? And I also wanted to tell Yasser, as a music professor, 20 years ago, his instructional CD was the first one that I bought, and I've always cherished it.
Wow. Well, thank you so very, very much.
Wow.
Well, there we go.
How's your music?
Well, my album, my single on Spotify is not jumped to the top 10.
Before we get into that question, it's a great question. A4, knight takes A4, played in the game between MVL and Grishuk.
Oh, no. Whoa.
Maurice, I want you to keep an eye out on that. He has not played the move Rook E4 yet. But we're going to have our eyes on that while we answer the call. I'll take this one because I'm the one most familiar with chess engines. AlphaZero doesn't have any direct offspring. I just want to say that because AlphaZero is not a public engine. So people don't actually know the ins and outs of AlphaZero. But the idea of how AlphaZero works did give rise to a new generation of chess engines. You could say it's the offspring, not direct, but in a way, indirect, I would say, offspring of AlphaZero. And those are called Leela. That was the first big engine that thought the way AlphaZero did and was commercially available. And I have to tell you, as somebody that was working for the 2018 World Championship, it turned chess upside down.
Right.
We had to go through all of the variations we had looked at and see, does reevaluate everything. And some of them were just dead. Some of the variations we wanted to play.
You had to just throw them out.
Just grab this file, set it on fire, grab that USB, throw it into the river, because that variation is dead. Yes, it just did not work at all.
Wow.
And so to simplify, yes, it has changed chess pretty clearly in certain variations, and there's a lot of new ideas that we really like. The reason that we say the pawn on h6 like AlphaZero is because this idea of putting pawns on h6 against fianchettos was really underestimated for a long time. It's one of the many positional factors that you see. It doesn't really care that much that the pawn is weak. It just thinks it's a bind, the space advantage is really worthwhile, and that the bishop on g7 really doesn't have another square. Usually it just wants to be on g7. And another one is a piece activity. It greatly values piece activity over material, more so than other engines.
Right.
In positions where Stockfish would say, you know, I have a pawn. Leela would be just, your pawn's worthless. I have activity. I'm just going to crush you. And sometimes it's right, sometimes it's wrong. but it has changed the way we look at dynamics in the game. So the answer is absolutely.
Yeah, and for me, when I saw Alpha Zero play for the first time, I realized there was an alien life form, and that was it. Maurice, jump right on in.
Well, we are looking at some good alien chess right now, but it's going to be some straightforward stuff, and he missed it. Oh my goodness, Rook E4 was completely winning. There was no doubt about it. This move was crushing to take this bishop. We talked about this sacrifice. Rook takes C4. That would have done the job. No question about it. Because you're hitting F7, you're crashing through. The other move, bishop to E6, tricky dicky, looking to exchange here and take. You could have my knight, but I'll take the take on H5. Unfortunately, knight takes, pawn takes, hitting the rook, looks great. Bishop check, king back. I'm still hitting the rook. This is what is so deep. This line, like I said, it would have required some serious depth on Maxime's part because now he has to find the move rook to F3, preventing the knight from going to C3. And now the knight is under attack. White is down 2 full pawns. The knight leaves with tempo, and now rook to F4, rook EF4. And only now is the combination clear. Only now. Rook F7 will happen, and you cannot stop what's going to happen to your position. It's just going to be pure tsunami as the rook on the 7 will demolish everything. This is how deep he had to go in the line, and he missed it. But this would have been winning. But we are seeing other moves appear on the board at the moment after knight takes A4. Instead, he played this check and C5. And the move E6, and he's just playing a pace, but Grishchuk finding now all the defensive moves, and the engine saying now it is perfectly fine for black. He missed his opportunity. What a chance for Maxime to go to +2, and he didn't see it.
But I still don't get it, Maurice, if you could help me out, because if you take on C5, where is the defense? I don't have an engine with me.
Takes.
So you can go to Maurice's board. You take on C5, you take with the knight.
Bishop?
Yes, with the bishop. Okay, in this position, this is fine for black.
Well, all he has to do is defend this.
And I take on C4.
You take on C4.
You take on G5. I play rook C5.
Rook C5.
This endgame is fine for black. I take on G5 and threatening rook takes G7. What on earth?
Well, you're only threatening this, right? So let's keep going.
Only threatening that I have 3 passed pawns if I take on G7.
No, if you take on G7.
Okay.
That's never going to happen. That's
you're not going to let me. You're just
not going to let that happen. He's got his. This is going to start racing, and you only have this pass pawn. You haven't made anything here yet. He definitely has this one that's going down the board.
I don't have enough.
And
it's amazing, right?
Amazing.
The rook's going to always challenge, and this rook will always challenge this rook. The engine's giving triple zeros in this line.
Now you know what it feels like when you're not standing next to the engine. You're sitting here at the table, and you're going, wait a minute, this looks so good. I could play rook F5, rook F7. I've got my pass pawn on the 6th rank. I mean, why aren't I winning?
Right?
0, 0, 0.
That looks crazy.
Luis does this to me all the time.
Hey, that's my job, Yasser. And Bishop C5 has been played.
Both are party poopers.
Look, the reality is Maxime missed a golden chance, but that golden chance was one of those lines. Remember, at the end of it, that move. Remember when Kirill missed Bishop takes G6? And the world said, you missed against Nepo. Oh, how you missed the move. Wow, man, he must be weak. Afterwards, he said, I did see Bishop G6. I did calculate, but I couldn't go far enough.
I didn't see H5.
He had to see Remember, he had to see H5.
He had to see
the rook E3, and all those variations.
Wow.
Here, Maxime's, yes, you played a great move, but you have to see rook E4 to start. You have to realize that B5, you have to sack. Okay, Maxime could see that. But if he sees this move and he realizes, okay, is it this check? This doesn't work. It's this check that does the job. And now play this move? You still haven't won anything. And only at the end of it do you come to here. And then you say, oh, this position where I'm 2 pawns down, the guy can't stop me from doing it. This is deep. This is ultra deep stuff right here. This is not your casual, oh yeah, the run-of-the-mill miss tactic, white to move and win. I bet you if I give you this position and say white to move and win, how many players would find the rook E4 idea with Bishop E6 and then come to
Bishop
this
G5
position? Seriously?
I would have thought I would have something in the double rook endgame.
Right. Exactly.
That
Right.
there was some
Would have been
little
something else.
subtlety detail
Something
that
else, but
I was
not
winning there.
Would we have found this?
If I'm playing an opponent and he spins this out, wand, I want this guy. I mean, where's the chip? Where's
I'm
the
being
chip?
told though that Grishchuk just made a mistake, which I'm surprised at. In
got an alert.
this position, let's go to the actual game.
They-
After Rook takes,
They've gone right down the whole
he
line.
took directly on G5.
Allowing Rook C7 check.
Why would he allow this check first? It doesn't seem as though the world is coming to an end necessarily, but why would he allow this way first? Now White still has some edge. It doesn't seem like it's a killer, though. It seems like Grishchuk, though, is playing with only 47 seconds on his clock,
my goodness.
and Maxime has 56 minutes. I'm sure Maxime feels Grishchuk's time pressure.
Right.
Yes.
I mean, it looks like he's playing along with it. But at least now he's stopped, because otherwise he would have taken immediately on C7. This one is not completely obvious that Grishchuk is dead, but he's giving away his c-pawn when he didn't have to.
No, but I actually would have thought this makes sense to me, because the c-pawn is relatively worthless. I'm only afraid of the fact that the rook's in the 7th, but I'm going to kick it out.
Yes.
You take king d6, rook c4, and then I was thinking,
so this is the moment where we had been expecting,
Rook
frankly,
H8.
Rook h8, and only after taking the bishop do you take the knight. He started with taking the knight, and this got us all perplexed because he's allowing a Zwischenzug,
I don't find it
move.
so perplexing, because king d6, you have to play.
By the way,
No, not king f6.
This is actually rather pretty. You don't see a checkmate in the ending. Just by accident, the pawn on on h5 is covering g6. But king d6, yes, sorry, go ahead, Alejandro.
Rook takes c4, and I was thinking rook h e8.
Rook on h8 to e8.
I start harassing your pawn on e6.
Right.
Yes. Perhaps, I mean, to me as a human, it doesn't seem that this endgame is worse than the other one. They both seem like black should have enough to hold. But
I would hold the c-pawn. I'd hold the c-pawn. Maurice, jump in with the game of Fabi.
Well, Grishchuk was in trouble, and his Russian compatriot Jan Nepomniachtchi, who is currently tied for first, is also in trouble. You know that Jan plays very quickly, right? We know that. Jan is a speedy customer. He's always putting the pressure on his opponent. Well, his couple of moves, queen a3 and queen a5, met properly by Fabi, especially with this move, queen d1, sent him into a deep spiral. And guess who only has 13 minutes left for the rest of the game in a difficult position? He realized his problems here, that he's not getting the play, that this diagonal is a problem, this diagonal is a problem, and Danny d-pawn is a problem as well. He did find what seemed to be the only defense, bishop to d6. Fabi played correctly with g3. No more mating ideas. King perfectly safe. And now king to f8. It's time to giddy up with the king. Bring the king out of that cage.
Exactly.
And now best move, according to the engine, is queen to d4. Looks like it makes a lot of sense. Centralizing the queen. Also threats potentially in the position
Mate
with
on
queen
H8.
check, mate on h8.
Bishop G5.
Potential bishop g5. All this is obvious. With the king going to g2, it's clear here who has the advantage.
Right.
No question about it. Jan is in big trouble. Will he be able to defend with limited time on his clock and Fabiano pressing to try to come back from his loss in round 3?
Well, what an eventful start for round 4. Like, it's ridiculous. I mean, and so many players playing for first place. I mean, at the same time, right? I mean, by the way, Ding Liren's game has kind of just fallen off the wayside because the Anish Ding Liren game has not got all the content of the others.
Well,
but this is a very important.
Let's look at the content, because I actually want to analyze this position between Fabi and Nepo. Because king f8 was played, queen d4 was what Maurice is giving us.
Well, king f8, like he was saying, you just got to escape the king side. There's a checkmate on g7 always looming, so that makes a lot of sense.
All right.
And after queen d, let's say after queen here, I'll get on my giddy up.
But that's the thing. I'm not really sure you can play on e8, because I think I can just take your h7 pawn and queen it.
Like, as simple as that?
I don't know if there's a perpetual here with queen at d1, h5 that I have to be worried about, so perhaps it's not that easy.
That was what I was trying to set up, this kind of a triage of checks.
And it's not that easy, I'm being told.
Yeah.
So,
but
there is Queen A8, however.
oh,
And that is a major problem.
that came
out of nowhere.
That's like a billiard shot.
you're
You know, you go all the way across the board
just
from
getting
H8.
mated.
You're setting up for this beautiful. First of all, you defend the pawn on D5. You're setting up for Queen C6 check and Bishop G5. And you're right.
That's
You're just getting mated.
I mean, Queen B7 is also mate. Queen C6
my
is
goodness.
mate. You're just getting
Sorry, that means that King E8 is a no-go move.
You probably have to go to E7 and hope that there's no Bishop G5. Because, I mean, you have to play the king out of F8. There's no other choice.
Right.
Yeah, there has to be the other.
But aren't I walking into something like this anyway? I mean,
I think you have to go back to F8. I'm not even kidding.
Oh my
because if you go
goodness, really?
if you go to D7, I have Queen G4, and I don't see a defense here.
You're provoking F5.
Once I provoke F5, I'll be happy to go to D4.
Aha. Now you're really, really.
Now, I mean,
and
yes.
Thank you. That F pawn was at least keeping the 7th rank blocked. This is a real challenge
And that
for
line
Nepo.
the line with Queen E4, King F8.
Oh, so it is
sorry.
Queen E4, King F8. Oh, wow.
So King. Hold on. What were you saying? King E8, Queen E4.
No,
King
King E7.
King E7.
King E7.
I beg your pardon because of Queen A8. It was yes. Queen E4, King F8.
And now Bishop D4 is
And
not checkmate because. Why is this not checkmate?
The only move is Queen B5, or the best
Queen
move is
B5
Queen
guards
B5.
E8.
Guard the E8 square against this Bishop G7 check threat.
I'm shocked White's not winning somehow.
White's doing really well, you could say that much. But Black is completely tied down.
Here you need a move like A4 or
It's
something.
just like one
or-
move that just wins.
Yeah,
it almost
exactly.
feels like it's there.
I don't know, but this is a when Fabi entered this whole endgame from a long time ago, this was his dream result.
Oh, yes. You can't ask for anything better.
He's achieved as the maximum he possibly could. He's got his pawn on H6. He's got his bishop on D4, dominating his queen in the center. And Black's queenside pawns haven't moved. The pawn on D5 is the bomb.
I think it's funny, this position, Bishop G7 check.
Yeah. In a Grunfeld, right?
And White's bishop. How does White's bishop get to
Dominate
G7?
the long diagonal.
Modern chess.
Wow.
What the heck? You put the bishop on G7, he has to play King G8
Yeah.
and live in that hole?
Exactly.
That's a coffin.
That is not nice. Guys, this is an absolute dream result for Fabi should he win this game, because that loss was so crucial. I mean, it's not like the tournament was over, but if he beats his #1 rival, he's +2. He's got he's going into the free day. Fabi, and he's played the greatest prep ever.
Right.
And here we stand after 3 rounds, and we were just saying Fabiano, he's got that big fat 0 for that 3rd round result. Give that a 1-point result. He's the guy sitting at top of the leaderboard with 2.5. And it was just not to be.
It's not to be. Ding Loran came back as a boss. Let's go to a dear friend of ours who has some chess insights as we have the Count's Corner with Christian Kirilla.
Thanks, guys, and welcome everybody to the Candidates edition of the Count's Corner. I will be your host, Grandmaster Christian Kirilla, and today I want to talk a little bit about Fabiano Caruana's strategy going into this event. He is one of the main favorites, and in my opinion, he has been making the biggest waves in the competition as of right now. In the first game against Vachier-Lagrave, after E4, E5, this, in my opinion, potentially already a small surprise, because he has been playing C5 and going into the Sveshnikov after knight to C6, but obviously this is a very dangerous approach, especially if your opponent already knows that potentially you're going to play this opening. It's a very dangerous opening. I'm sure most of the competitors have been analyzing this during their training camps. You know that these players have been having very thorough 2 months long training camps in preparation for this tournament, and you want to surprise them as early as possible, and this is exactly what Fabiano has been doing. He played the move E5, knight to F3. Of course, Fabiano has played the Ruy Lopez plenty of times with the white pieces, with the black pieces. But after knight to f6, castle, b5, bishop to b3, bishop to c5. This is the first major surprise in my opinion. We haven't seen Fabiano play bishop c5 since 2014. That's 6 years ago. That's a long time. And this is a very sharp variation because after a4, rook to b8, c3, d6, d4, bishop to b6. Now white is faced with the first big option. You can take on b5, take on b5, and then go knight to a3. But then you're most likely going to have to, after castle, you're going to have to take on b5, and after bishop to g4, the position gets very complicated. And you know that with the new engines, potentially big weapons could be hidden in this position, and most likely Fabiano had some amazing preparation in this line as well. Of course, Vachier-Lagrave was faced with the big decision, take on b5, go into the main lines, but heavily risk to fall under Fabiano's preparation. And he decided to go for a tamer approach. He played a move a5, bishop to a7, h3, defending against bishop to g4, castle, bishop to e3, e takes d4, c takes d4. But once again, Fabiano is pushing for the complications. Knight to b4, a very concrete move. Knight to c3, defending the pawn on e4, continuing attacking the pawn on e4. Knight to g5, queen to e7, e5, d takes e5. And at this point, already this is a critical juncture in the game, because white's only good option is to go knight to f7. At this point, Fabiano had 1 hour and 40 minutes on the clock, while Maxim had like 1 hour and 15 minutes on the clock. So big thing for Maxim, opening success for Fabiano. And we're going to see that Fabiano has been having opening success in pretty much every single game he has played up to this point. So let's go back from the beginning. This was round 1. Let's see what happened in round 2. In round 2, he was white against Kirill Alexeyenko. And this was a big game because, of course, Kirill is the only player that is just at that 2700 threshold. It's not like 2760, 2760, just like every other player in this competition, 2800. He's nowhere close to that. He's around 2700. With the white pieces, you're going to want to score in that game. It's very important that you're going to try to score. And Fabiano Caruana plays the move d4, knight to f6, c4, e6, knight to c3, bishop to b4, and f3. He never played this move in his life. This was a big shock, guaranteed, for Alexeyenko, and a very smart strategy for Fabiano, because once again, heavily reliant on artificial intelligence engines, with Lila, with AlphaZero, you're going to be able to analyze this position in completely new ways and bring new ideas to the table. And this is exactly what Fabiano has been doing. I think f3 was a huge success. Of course, as we have seen in the game, he won quite easily with the white pieces. He completely demolished Alexeyenko. And I think this f3 was an amazing decision for Team Fabiano. In round 3, of course, that was the big key matchup of the round, and he played against Ding. Another huge surprise as early as move 2, c6. He hasn't played this move in a while, since 2017. Knight f3, knight f6, knight c3, take on c4, a4, bishop to f5, knight to e5, e6, f3. Once again, a very sharp variation, and this was specifically aimed at Ding. Ding is not a very versatile player. He plays mostly the same things. He plays the Catalan against the Slav. He plays very principled lines. He's a very principled player, especially in the opening. And Fabiano knew that. He knew that he's going to be able to target him specifically and shift the game towards the waters where he wants to take it. And this is exactly what happened. Bishop to b4, knight to c4, castle, king to f2, and once again, an amazing, amazing novelty. e5, unfortunately for Fabiano, it didn't work out his way, but once again, he's posing huge problems in the opening, and very, very early on. The first one in this one was at move number 2, c6, coming with the Slav, showing his incredible preparation once again. And right now, in round number 4, he started off with d4 against the Grunfeld. Nepo always plays the Grunfeld, so I would assume this was a bit of an easier approach to the game. g6, knight to c3, d5, take on d5, e4, bishop to g7, bishop to c4, c5, knight to e2, knight to c6, bishop to e3. A very concrete and very principled option for white. You have the center, and once again we see the influence of the artificial intelligence engines. After rook to c1, knight to a5, bishop to d3, queen to d7, we have seen this position in a couple of games in the database, but nobody played the move h4. This is definitely a Lila influence, if I might say. And it's a great move, and it poses some severe problems. As white, you're not taking a lot of risks, so I like this approach against Nepo. Nepo is a very dynamic player. He likes his opponent to take risks. In my opinion, this position doesn't yield as many risks for white. And he has a pretty nice game. He's going to go h4, h5, capture, he has the center already, capture some more space on the king side, and just try to slowly suffocate black's position. I think this was a very good choice once again for Fabiano. So let's recapitulate what his strategy is. The key points: he has a new style. We have seen that in game number 2 against Alexeyenko with that f3 Nimzo. That was just an amazing choice, completely unexpected. The second key point is that he's striking first. In every single game so far, he has been striking first in the opening. That is huge psychological boost, and he's enjoying that for the moment. And of course, new openings. He's playing new openings in almost every single game, and if they're not completely new, he has played them 5-6 years ago. And most of these guys most likely have not prepared against those, because there's so many ground to cover, and you're not going to be able to focus on everything your opponent has played throughout the career. So he is very well prepared, and I still think even after yesterday's defeat, he is a big favorite to face Magnus Carlsen later in the year. So this was today's breakdown, today's players' strategy analysis.
Well, we are back, and thank you, Christian, for those lessons. It almost feels like insider trading.
I was
right?
about to say, on behalf of all the other competitors in the tournament, except for Fabiano, thank you for explaining his strategy. I mean, wow. Very, very revealing indeed. And here is the standing. No result after in this fourth round thus far.
We are still on the third hour of play. Coming up on time pressure for a lot of people, of course, Christian, but that's been since the beginning of the game. No results so far. 3 leaders still: Maxime Vachier-Lagrave, Wang Hao, Jan Nepomniachtchi. Let's take a look at that Maxime game against Christian, because that is the thrilling end game. Has Maxime been able to put pressure in the double rook endgame against Grischuk?
Well, it sure feels like it to me. We left it just about these parts. We didn't see any challenging of the rooks, but a5 was on board. Very quickly came rook b1 check, inviting.
What a cunning little check.
I know. How sweet is that, right?
Well,
I mean,
even though I'm not entirely sure. Yeah, this is obviously checkmate, but if I go king f7, where's the actual win?
Is it? There's no knockout here. I just assumed there was. I guess you want to play rook h7.
It's ugly, but I do what I must.
Yes. Well, there you go. You're right.
And I still have a passed a pawn, which I think will force you to trade rooks. At some
One
point.
day, yeah. I mean, h6 doesn't. Wow. Okay. Yeah, I was being facetious there. For some reason, I didn't see the move rook h7. He actually played king e7, and we're up to date with the play here.
It also challenges a move here for white, because I am taking on e6 against any rook check.
Right. Okay. Well, let's imagine a rook check. You are taking on e6. Did you say?
I think so.
Okay. And let's say I'm taking this one with the idea I'm going to get my two connected passers against your.
Yeah, this is a difficult situation for Grischuk. Do I give you the two connected passers and run my a pawn immediately, or do I somehow try to hold this pawn? The problem is actually I don't see how.
Well, a move like
h8. Well, maybe rook hg8.
Rook hg8. Okay, fair enough. Rook hg8.
Yeah, why not?
Okay.
You can take on b7.
Let me toss in a check. I just want to see where the king's going to go. I'm thinking that if I can force you to go to f6, then I'll take on b7.
And then there's some checkmate threats.
Right. Yes, exactly.
Okay, I'll run
the other way.
e5.
Yes. Okay, fair enough.
You'll take, and I'll go a4.
Right.
And the question is, do I have enough counterplay
with
for
your
the missing
a-pawn?
pawn?
Exactly.
Feels
Which
like it, right?
one is more deadly? Maurice jumped right in here. I mean, this is, well, what can we say about the Berlin endgame? It's double-edged, and it has been double-edged.
It shouldn't have happened.
We understand why.
Because Maxime should have won this game, or at least be pressing tremendously right now. But I do want to say something about double rook endings. I remember the late Emery Tate, who was a fantastic tactician, and one of the top African-American players, was a hero of ours in the community for many, many years. It was an honor to be mentioned in the same breath with that guy when I finally got strong enough. But I remember watching him play a game once, and he loved to show off his games. Mm-hmm. And one of the games that he played, he allowed 2 rooks on the 7th. And you read in all the books, you certainly read in my system, like 2 rooks on the 7th. You can't let that happen. The game's going to be over. Like, not even like you're going to calculate. The game's going to be over. But he allowed his opponent to get 2 rooks on the 7th, and then they just played a normal position. He said, 2 rooks are not doing anything on the 7th rank. And the more you looked at it, you said, yeah, nothing's really happening. And this was more in a middle game situation. But even in end games, that can be the case. And where did we see that? We saw that recently in the game with Wang Hao. Who was he playing? He was black. We just saw it in round 3, I believe, as a matter of fact. It was Grischuk. It was Grischuk himself. Grischuk against Wang Hao, where the rooks were appearing on the 7th, but when you looked at it, you said, but they're not doing anything. Because 2 rooks on the 7th by themselves, without something else going on, usually just isn't enough. It's just not enough. You need more. You need a lot more. Well, usually if you get a little more, like a pawn shows up on h6 and the king is frozen on the back rank, that's a different thing, because one of the rooks will get protected by the pawn on the 6th rank. Maybe not h6, even g6 or f6. The point is, if a rook gets protected, you need more. But if the other guy has some stuff too, like this a-pawn, then it's a whole different ball of wax. So you look at a position like you guys were mentioning, rook takes on g7. Yeah, you can get there, but you're not going to curtail black's movement. You don't have mating ideas now. He can even ignore you, it turns out, and give you this pawn, and then say, all right, let's play this position. And this one is just nothing. You take. You can defend this pawn. He gets behind his own pawn and says, I've got something, and the whole game is different. So these rook endings are very deceptive. They look superior until you look at the concrete factors in the position. Right now, it's all about this a-pawn giving counterplay, huge counterplay for black. And unless white has a lot more, not just more, but a lot more, white's not going to win this game.
A rook e4 played in that game, defending that pawn on e6, putting the rook behind the pawn. But very quickly, Grischuk simply put his rook from h to d8.
Oh, sorry, I was looking at some other games. Sorry.
Rook h8 played, Rook b1 played as well.
So after Rook e4, I beg your pardon, just to play catch up with you here for a moment. Rook d7 checks on White's agenda. Came Rook hd8.
Yes, and then Rook b1.
Rook boy 1.
Yes, and that seems to be the current position.
And I'm assuming I'm shadowing you. If the moment you play Rook f1,
it's been
I'm
played.
going to play Rook f8, and you go Rook d1. I'm going to shadow you. So it has been played.
Yes, Rook b8 has been played. It does seem like a very concrete way to play by Grischuk.
Exactly, and again,
it seems.
He's got his counter. He's got his counter.
That seems pretty drawish.
Maurice.
Big deal in the game with Fabiano Caruana and Nepomniachtchi, and Fabi has soft played it. Instead of Queen d4, which looks quite strong, Queen f3, going in a slightly different direction. But Nepo very quickly came back with a forceful Queen e1 check, King to g2, and now the move f5. We were worried about this move because this queen could double back to d4 and get in the position. But now Nepo realizing that because the queen is on f3, he's restricted its movements. And now with f5, he's going to be able to move his queen out of the way, maybe go to e4 in some position. His king is a lot safer. Still a precarious looking position, but only if this queen can magically teleport itself into the position. Doesn't look like there's an easy way. Now, there are some concrete variations to calculate, or at least something to worry about. This move g4 looks like it could potentially be dangerous. But again, we've got this queen b1 move that's holding Black's position together, apparently. So a lot of the danger has passed. Ooh. A lot of the danger has passed. Now, concretely, that doesn't mean that the game is over. Let's be real. You can evaluate it quietly here, especially with an engine running, versus you actually playing this sharp position yourself in Yekaterinburg down to 10 minutes with 7 moves to go. So the actual reality, the evaluation of the position will say Black's okay. But I've got a thing for Fabi. This position after the move f5, if he didn't see it coming, it's got to be trending uncomfortable a little bit. Like, I had a really good position, looked like I was going to do something, and now it's not the same anymore.
It's not as clear.
We've seen this story before. We've seen this story from Fabi, and I got to say I'm uncomfortable because I've seen him not do well in this kind of situation. In fact, do badly. Where things start to trend poorly for him from a good situation. We just saw it in the Ding Lorraine game.
Absolutely.
And then he just goes whoosh, and he goes down. Yeah. We've seen this from him before. And this might be a moment for him where he says, okay, I get it. Let me just cool, calm. I mean, he's a fantastic player. When you give him a nice position for him to milk, he can play some fantastic, amazing chess. We've seen him go on 7-game streaks. When he's playing well, he is a match of anybody on the planet. But sometimes this superlative player could find himself psychologically not quite there and not make the best moves. And the problem for him is when he starts going the wrong way, he sometimes goes on tilt. Let's hope for American fans that's not the case right now. But this position has certainly transformed from the big advantage that he had to one where now he's going to have to be a little bit careful.
We'll keep an eye out on that one. Yeah, so you have the game of Wang Hao, tournament leader, against Kirill Aleksenko.
Exactly.
What's going on in that one?
Well, some of our perceptions about the other positions may be misleading. I just wanted to go back a move or two. At this exact moment, the perception is really good for White. I mean, if White can just get some things going. And I was a little bit surprised by this decision to take right away. He did. I think we've got another move or two.
E5, yes, E5.
E5 on the board, attacking the pawn on C5. Have we seen B3 before?
No, I think Wang Hao is still thinking about this one, but it doesn't seem like he has too many options.
Well, the problem, as I see it with C6, is like essentially this pawn on B7 was a weakness, and it's sort of like, oh, thank you so much. It's a big relief for Black if he can trade off that weakness. I'm anticipating instead the move B3, B4, simply defending this pawn on C5 and eyeballing an opportunity to play knight B3, knight A5. It feels to me like Wang Hao, as White, is on the sunny side of the position.
It does come down to concrete variations.
That's
right?
the problem.
Can I play the move b6?
B6. So you're kind of like challenging me, is this pawn
Queenie or not?
Yeah, exactly. So you're taking on b4.
Yeah.
I assumed so. I was going to see Rook c8 is
bishop
kind of
a6.
walking into bishop a6.
Yeah,
I
but
thought you
it's not
might
that
have
bad.
to.
Rook c8, bishop a6, rook takes c7.
Okay. Sorry. This is you are getting 2 pawns for the exchange and a nice bishop.
No,
I still feel
White's the one pressing this one by a pretty long shot. Yeah.
Yeah, because the rook is on the 7th and it's so powerful. Yeah.
How do you win? How do you win this
Okay,
position?
that's the
That
other
would be
problem.
a different question, but I think once you get
No,
some pressure.
I don't mean that position. I mean this position, because you have to get through c8, right? So you have to get. How do you get to? How do you? You need your knight somehow.
I got to get my rook to b8. I got to get my bishop to a6.
Well, you're not getting your rook to b8. Bishop d6 is going to happen.
Well, and even after I get in all of those moves, I still.
Yeah, you still need.
I'm
bishop
only
a6,
gonna.
right?
Yeah. Okay, so
you need your knight to be part of the game in order to make this actually work.
Can I go like e4? That was the move I was looking at. The reason you want to go e4 is that this knight really wants to hop somewhere useful. You can't take with the bishop, because if I eliminate that one, I'll be able to promote. So you kind of have to take with the pawn.
And then we can jump this way.
And I am controlling this important square, right?
And
on d6.
And I don't feel so unhappy that you've got doubled e-pawns either. So
by the way, b6 has been played, so we might be going through something very sharp. So this is the position right now on the board.
And we are anticipating. Maurice, jump in.
Speaking of sharp, we did see the move g4 appear on the board, and very quickly the move queen to b1 by Nepo. Not afraid of any of these endings. Pontes is going to take back with the queen, and boy, he could just breathe a sigh of relief. All of the danger will have passed. Fabi quickly played a move that does not appear with the engines bishop to d4, but doesn't look bad. And this one now, it looks like options for black. No real threats, nothing that dangerous in the position. He can move his king away, a couple of squares, even queen c2 is a move.
Is queen e4 a move?
Queen e4
if it works, it's just a draw,
also
right?
does work, takes, and not a real advantage for white here either. But Nepo decided, why trade queens? He doesn't believe he's in any danger anymore. King f7. A little bit closer to this pawn, sort of, kind of, because he can't go diagonal. But in this position here, it looks as though black knows the danger is past. Now I just need to keep playing good moves, and let's see what the guy does. Looks, Fabi has to be careful, I think. Just stay the course. The advantage, that beautiful looking initiative is gone. Yeah, don't mess this up.
That's a remarkable, if you could just go back to that moment where Fabi played the move queen f3, how can it be that you've got this nice comfy advantage and a good looking move? I mean, queen f3 is not the worst move you've ever seen in your life. Throws away the lion's share of your advantage.
But queen d4, by the way, queen d4 looks so attractive.
Exactly.
Yeah. The only thing is, you do have to know what's going to happen after this move, because you are sending your queen away from the action, and this pawn is hanging. There's still this queen check, but I think it's more this pawn than anything else. If the guy defends his position and you don't have something concrete, you might be thinking, what about my a pawn? Will he take it? And I think Fabi thought he had to be somehow concrete, like he was going to get into f6 somehow. I don't know what he was thinking precisely, but this idea with queen d4 just looks so compelling that he had to have had a concrete reason why he decided he just couldn't play such a good-looking move.
Well, the problem as I saw it is what you had said earlier, Alejandro, which is you got to do what you got to do. And when you're black and you see this move queen f3, well, from Nepo's point of view, his heart skips a beat and he gets to go, oh, I get to go queen e1 and f5, restraining the f3 queen suddenly. Yeah. And I'm right back in the game, and he's thinking, happy thought suddenly, because he had no time on his clock, his position was bad, and suddenly he's
totally fine.
Totally fine.
Yeah, he's going to be able to exchange queens whenever he wants. The move king f7. Yes, it doesn't is not queen e4 completely forcing, but you can't stop queen e4.
Exactly.
If Black wants to play queen e4 next move, he'll play queen e4 next move, and that's going to be the end of the game. I just think that's a dead draw.
Exactly. It's and really, there's just no variations even to look at anymore.
Right.
I mean, queen e4 is going to shut everything down. I just wanted to go back to the Dingler in game. Sorry, he's just getting no love at all today. I mean, he's just not played much of a game. When we had gone on our break, I did check Maurice's engine. It was going 0-0-0 on like the top 3 moves. This game looks like it's heading into a draw.
Yeah. I can't imagine anything else.
Anish Giri is not the happy camper. I mean, he's basically lost one game and he's just drawn all of his other games, and this one too.
He's black today, though. Hard to press against Dingler and a very solid player. We saw what happens when you try to overpress with black.
True.
I don't think he's going to be very upset about this one.
Okay. Fair enough. For Dingler, that will leave both those players with a score of -1. And just checking in on the Grishuk game, let's just see what had happened. That was where Rook was shadowing the free Rook on G5, and after Rook takes G5, Rook G8. Again, this pawn.
It's kind of marching.
It's pretty fast. Well, let's see what could he do possibly. Well, okay, we're threatening a check.
In shadow, I could also probably start thinking of A3 at this point.
With the Rook even here, you start thinking.
I mean,
about
it is the third rank.
It's fast. It's true. And Maurice.
Well, we do have big news in that game, which we did expect. In fact, we are predicting a draw in this position because Queen E4 was indeed played after Queen to E3. Takes, and now F3, truly deadening the position. There'll be no chances here for White to win. Black, be careful trying to get this 2 against 1 majority on this side going. But it looks as though this game should end in a draw. Fabiano is certainly going to be disappointed. 2 games in a row where he had promising chances, only to end up with maximum half a point out of those 2 results, 2 possibilities. He's got to be a little bit dejected after this game.
No, I absolutely agree. He comes in with this excellent preparation.
Again,
you have that GM feeling that there's something in the position. Once you have the queen on D1, the king is suddenly going to F. It doesn't feel natural. You feel there's something in this position, and he wasn't able to find it because normally he takes his positions, he calculates it till the end. He plays this clumsy move, Queen F3, which is very unlike him because Nepo pounces Queen E1, F5, your queen's restricted, end of the game.
Right.
And I think he just missed this idea completely. If you see Queen E1, F5, you can't go for this.
Exactly. Conversely, when you see Queen D4 posting up and Queen H8 to A8, well, it plays itself, doesn't it?
It's actually difficult to refuse Queen D4.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? It's such a natural move.
Right.
Yes,
it's a boss move, posting up in the center. What
I
could be more
understand
natural?
A2 might be hanging. But really, is this pawn ever going to be taken?
No.
I mean, so many threats you have on the other side of the board.
It looks like checkmate. Yeah. Big. But we have actually a real special, actually, seriously, folks, we had a free day. Maurice put a lot of effort into the special that's coming up, Alejandro.
Well, let's stick it with Maurice, the highlights of the 2018 candidates.
Yes, and we're going to go over the top 5 highlights from the entire tournament. Trust me, there was so much left on the cutting board, but we had to pick 5 of them. And this is something Fabiano will want to remember because, of course, it was the one that allowed him to play against one Magnus Carlsen. We're going to start with number 5, the game between Vladimir Kramnik. Big Vlad, say it ain't so that you're retired because he produced so many amazing games, and this was just one of them from that tournament. In this position, his queen is under attack, but he played the fabulous knight to E8, a discovered check on the king. Also, the knight hitting the queen. Queen takes queen, of course, is impossible, or it doesn't matter because rook takes only one move, and a rook takes G8 would be a mate that you don't see every day. What a fun position, knight to E8. Fantastic move by Vlad. And we go on to number 4. Fabi had been doing quite well in the event, but he faced off against one of his old nemesis. Sergei Karyakin, and Karyakin have been playing wonderfully in this game, and then in this moment, he found the monster blow. Bishop takes on f7, hitting the queen, a discovery on the rook. These two pass pawns, just too much, and he went on to dominate this game, throwing Fabi backwards. But Fabi, like a champ, came right back in round 13 with the tournament on the line and playing against Aronian. And it was this position where he played the scintillating rook takes on h6 with check, forcing resignation as king takes. Does not do anything after this check. You block, and oh, there's a nice discovery, hitting the king. After king back only move, queen takes, and you can see the position is completely collapsing. Bishop takes g6 would be monstrous and force Aronian to resign. But Fabi wasn't out of the woods yet because of the next game with Mamedyarov. Mamedyarov was playing against Alexander Grischuk in this position, and Mamedyarov was giving chase to Fabi, and this c-pawn looks dangerous. Mamedyarov said, wait a minute. I got an idea. Let me take on b5, allow the pawn to go forward. Let me take my own threat to get a queen. King blocks. And just when you see this pawn going, you say, what is he going to do? He says, go ahead. You can queen. I don't mind. Pawn goes down to queen. You've got two queens, but I've got a baby that's about to queen myself, and your king's in trouble. Do what you will. This bishop is guarding the long diagonal. The win came right now as Grischuk resigned, and this gave him only a ½ point deficit against Fabi going into the last round. But fabulous Fabi delivered the goods in the last game, a position where he only needed a draw after Mamedyarov and Karyakin drew their games. He said, I'm not taking no stinking draw. Let's play on. And he got to this position, and this move doesn't look so fabulous, but it was the move that forced resignation. He's about to win the pawn. It's not a superstar move, but guess what? It made Fabi the first American in decades, in fact, since Bobby Fischer in 1972, to have a chance to play for the undisputed World Championship title. So a big game for him, and that is the recap of Fabi's great 2018.
And it was a great 2018. And here we're taking a look at the number of appearances by the players over the years. Who of these candidates, and there's only been 4 of them who have been repeat players.
Yeah, Alexander Grischuk, definitely the most veteran out of all of them, having participated in 2011. I believe those were the Kazan matches. Am I mistaken?
Right, because it was Gelfand too. Yes,
yeah,
right. And
Magnus
actually lost to Levon Aronian in that match in Kazan, I believe. We have to look it up. But there you have it, the veteran. And by the way, I have to say that Fabi sure feels like a veteran. It's hard to believe he's only put in 2 appearances, because it seems like he's not only is he number 2, but he's been around so long as one of the great.
This is his third. This is his third.
Sorry.
Yeah, because he played in 2016. He got second behind Karyakin.
That's right. And he won 2018, and this is 2013.
This is 2020.
Yeah, very good. Okay, where were we?
Well, Grischuk has made move 40, so that's
good.
Pretty set for a draw, I believe. Let's go to Maurice and the game of Kirill Alexenko.
Yes, and it looks like he's channeling you, Alejandro. C6 by Wang Hao, and after bishop takes b4, you think you're just okay, nothing happening. And then the guy plays e4 and says, knock, knock, wake up, as this move is now on the board. The point is you're trying to get that c4 square for the knight. Pawn takes can actually be met by knight takes on top of it.
Wow.
F6 is hanging. You cannot, or you don't dare capture. Well, you could give up your rook in this position for this bishop. There's a check just to make sure your king steps away. And then bishop to e6. And it will be, count them, 5 pawns against 3. But you do have this rook that could be problematic to that king. Is this a winning position? I don't know. This will be a lot of technique ahead in this kind of position, I would think. It seems very hard to see how you actually pull this off. Those 2 bishops, even with this pawn gone, but then again, with this pawn on, and I'm going to defend it with a bishop on c5, I don't really see how white actually wins this game.
Exactly.
It wouldn't be my first thought.
Yeah, those two bishops, those nice pawn structure, put the bishop on d4, anchors away. It's going to be very hard.
It does feel very close to a draw in that game, but it's still very sharp, and the players don't have a lot of time.
Okay.
If I'm looking at this correctly, they're on move 29. White just played move 29. Alexenko with 6 minutes and a half left, and Wang Hao only with 3. So they still have 10, 11 moves to make. And it's a sharp position.
Exactly.
Has taken on e4 with the pawn, as more or less was forced, I think.
Right. What happened is a pretty stodgy, stale affair.
Yeah, but actually,
it's really kind of explosive.
I didn't want to play knight takes e4. I thought this kind of endgames is more or less drawish. I wanted to play knight c4.
Exactly. I'm with you 100%.
Let me control some squares. Let me eliminate this bishop.
I want to play c7 and knight takes b6. I want you to enjoy those 2 pawns. Knight takes e4. Yeah, I'm with you 100%. I thought the whole idea was knight c4 as well, and it feels at least that Kirill is still on the back foot. He's going to have to make some good moves to hold the position. But let me attempt and just play the obvious one for a moment.
So here I really want to eliminate what is this bishop on f5. I think this bishop on f5 is just...
That's it.
That's it. If I eliminate this guy, I'm golden.
You're gold.
But I was also thinking, if I eliminate your dark squared bishop, I should be able to push something like c7, bishop a6, rook b7, rook b8. It might take me a while, but it might be winning.
Slow, but certain.
And I was wondering, can I play knight e3 in this position, and there you take this knight?
Wow.
Not an easy one. Because if you take on e3 and it works, then black's holding, and you will be up some material. I don't think it matters because your pawn structure is actually really bad.
Right.
But are you actually holding this? Because c7 is going to come very quickly, rook b7, rook b8.
And again, even though it's a slow maneuver,
I don't see the defense. I see your thermometer. I just don't see the defense.
Right. Let's just see how something like this might go. Where am I putting my pieces? Let's just put it here. You're looking at bishop a6 or rook b7.
I'm not sure, because rook b7 you're going to put a bishop on c8, and you're just going to stay there.
Or am I? Yeah, and then I'm going to bring my king.
And then you're going to bring your king.
Oh, thank you. By the way, I like the way you said that. You're going to do this, and you're going to do that. I go, oh, really? Okay, you're right.
Yeah.
Of course I am. And then that's holding. That feels like it's holding.
That seems holding.
Yeah.
I do see that Wang Hao has taken on e4, so this variations will be scrapped. And he might be going into the second game saying, it's a 2-result game. Let me see if there are some chances in this one with the extra
what
exchange.
we were looking at ourselves was something along these lines where yes, and yes, you are winning the exchange, but look what you've given up. Black will have 5 pawns, white will have 3 pawns, and whether it is, by the way, I can... Earlier, I could have thrown in a check and driven the king into the corner. And here's where I was kind of like scratching my head, saying, wow, black's bishop's posted up in the center like this. 2 pawns. Maybe I should have played h5, by the way, instead of bishop d4. No rush to put my bishop on this anchor square. It's going to be hard work.
It looks very drawish to me.
Hard work to win this, I would say. Although, like you were saying, I think the rook on the 7th rank does make a very pleasing impression. It does, but white is not risking anything, that's for sure. If the black king were on some square, let's say d6,
we wouldn't even
I would start to get a little bit worried if I was white. So just to keep that in mind. But it does feel like a 2-result game. Checking in once again on the game of Fabi, the moment we saw the move f3, this is where we gave it up.
Yeah, this just looks like a draw.
It looks like a draw. Okay, just
in
double checking.
many ways, this can be finished in a draw.
Just double checking in on that, and then the Grishuk. No.
Grishuk is a handshake imminent. Rook takes rook takes g8 is absolutely forced in this position after h6, and I think h6 is just an offer of peace.
Yes.
You take on h6.
A halving of the point.
Yes. Take on g8. It seems absolutely forced to me.
Right. Rook takes g8.
He hasn't played it yet. Take on g8, you take on a4, and this looks absolutely dead.
Right, whether it be with h5 or even king takes e6.
Doesn't matter.
an eventful game, and boy, we've seen some amazing decisive victories. But what a
miss!
Miss.
That was a big miss by Maxime.
We're looking exactly at this exact moment. This is where this beautiful exchange sacrifice kind of comes out of nowhere. But once you see it on the board, you put it on the board, then it becomes incredibly obvious.
Your coordination is just so strong, and your opponent's doesn't have a plan. You have so many pawns going forward. Once you see it, it's obvious.
Yeah. But giving up that exchange and the 2 pawns to begin with.
I'm a bit shocked he didn't find it. He had so much time.
Yeah. And it's
so much time to see this.
And it's the type of calculation that we've come to really appreciate
from specifically this
MBL.
Yeah, I understand that there were a lot of hidden variations that were difficult, especially rook e4, bishop e6.
Right. Let's just go back to that, because this is another one that we kind of would have expected. This is the hidden check too.
I think this was the more hidden one, yeah. But even in this position, I start thinking, does the move rook g5 work? Perhaps he figured rook g5 doesn't work, because I think that's what I'm drawn to first.
Yes, your rook is on pre. You get your rook out of pre. And by the way, don't forget your knight is hanging.
This is what I would be attractive to. I think the reason is that maybe knight c3 still holds, because knight c5, bishop a3 looks a bit disastrous.
Yeah, you don't want to walk into that monster pin. Yeah. But knight c3, on the other hand, you said you don't be touching the pawn on g7, because at the moment your rook is hanging, and you could end up hanging both your rooks. Yeah. So your rook would have to move, and well, if your rook moves here, there's this. But once you get past rook g5, and then you actually look at bishop check, and this is the real tough one. I'm sorry, but for me, at this point you might have stopped. I mean, the adrenaline is rushing, everything is, and you go, holy smokes, I'm 2 pawns down.
I know.
I can't play like this. I mean, my opponent's ready to play a5, a4. I would be, no, I'm winning. I'm not losing. My rook is going to f7. Then it's going to go to e7 check. I'm going to double on the 7. It's completely winning.
Yeah, it's a beautiful
It's a very hard judgment.
It's a tough judgment to make from afar.
Right.
I mean, we have the position in front of us, and of course an engine also helped us. But if you see this from afar, you're not so convinced this is winning.
It's 2 pawns.
It is 2 pawns. There's a passed a pawn.
Right.
So perhaps something like this was what Maxime saw, didn't evaluate it properly. We'll certainly try to find out.
Guys. I'm hearing you.
It's easy to give up on a variation.
I don't think he saw this position.
You don't think he saw it at all?
I don't think he saw this position that we're talking about. You're talking about...
Rook e4. Rook e4 right and here. Bishop e6. Yeah, a4.
Where am I? a4. Here we go. So this, you have to see this, right? And then you see this and this and this. And right here, I think the most plausible explanation is what you said, Alejandro, that in this position, what do you look for? Tempo moves. Right? You look for tempo moves. You're in a forcing variation, so you're going to look for tempo moves. So the move that's, after you look at bishop g5, he plays king e8, you could easily stop right there. Because rook g5, you look at that, you realize the knight gets in the game, he's hitting your rook, he's threatening knight e2 check. You can't make any moves like this. Rook takes because of king f8. Suddenly he's back in business. His knight's coming back. All right. But if you decide rook g5 doesn't work, what are you supposed to do? Your bishop check looks like it's just a move. And now you have no forcing moves. You play chess in combinative style. You've sacrificed. Now it's time for the forcing move. And you look at the position, you say, yeah, you know, his king doesn't look that great. Rook here. You might even ghost a move like this, trading rooks, forgetting that you're even attacking the knight.
You're right.
But also the knight gets a tempo on you coming back in the game. Already, I can just see his brain just not even getting here, and then if it got, just quickly was like, no, this doesn't look right. This is not how it works, right? Instead, to go further and find this, and then evaluate, the guy's got moves, and he just can't do anything, this is an incredible thing to find.
We have
Just
two
to-
results on the boards
Two.
now. Dingleren has drawn against Anish Giri, and Maxime Vachier-Lagrave has drawn against Alexander Grischuk. So, to having of the points already.
And that happened very quickly in the MVL game as they played to king versus king.
They played to king versus king, just for the spectators. They obviously
After
didn't have
H6,
to.
this is where we pretty much given up as a draw.
Yeah.
Just to repeat, everybody should know, of course, no draw offers before move 40.
Which means they could have at this point, but
Offered a draw, but they quickly
They got to
knew
this
what was coming, and we got king and versus king. On the other hand, a draw was offered in the contest.
I think they actually
between-
repeated.
Oh, was it? Okay. Well, that makes it simple.
Yeah.
They
just
did
went
have
back and forth with the rooks.
A 40
And
move
king
draw
d5 being
was
the DGT.
the DGT enabled. Now, also, I just want to go back to what Maurice was saying again about. Oh, sorry. Now I am more confused because of what Maurice was saying about this whole sacrifice. Because I like what everything that was being said right up to this moment. Pardon me. Right here. So we were looking at rook e4,
Yes.
bishop e6. I take, and just as you were saying, Alejandro, look for those tempo moves, and I love this move.
Yeah.
And then comes this move, and I love this move, and I easily calculate this because everything forcing, I can calculate. Now I'm thinking that I should just move my rook. Take my rook, and I've got two connected pass pawns. Your rooks are on h8 and a8, and I'm like,
They're just looking at h6, g5, g6 is totally winning.
pardon me?
If you want to play as white, h6, g5,
G5,
g6.
G6, yeah, as totally winning. And so, like, now I start to think, well, for sure Maxime would have seen rook g5 because that's the tempo move. For sure he would have seen knight c3 hitting the rook. For sure he would have seen rook hitting the knight.
So he evaluates rook g7, king f8 as bad for him.
Or
Something like
is
So let's continue. Rook d7,
right,
knight takes e3, bishop takes e3.
right.
And now let's see. I mean, I could just push my pawn.
a5.
Pass pawns have to be pushed. And all that.
Exactly.
I'll do the same, and let's see who wins the race. a3, g7.
Now remember, I do have. Whoa, the computer really didn't like the move I just played. I thought I was pushing my pass pawns. You just told me pass pawns, but push them, baby.
Yeah, but I guess they're not really going anywhere.
Well, aren't I threatened to play g7?
You can play king g8, maybe.
Okay, so
What happens if he pushes a2? Is it over?
a2. Well,
A2 is probably just a draw, right? g7,
No, it's-
and I can defend with bishop d4 at the end.
I've always got bishop d4,
Right.
but maybe that's
enough.
not.
I mean, it's not enough to
winning.
win for sure.
Okay. Well, I actually was playing from the perspective that I thought that my pass pawns
Would be
combined with
enough,
my
yeah.
rook and bishop would be winning, but I guess.
I guess not.
Also, in that line, by the way, without playing a5, this is a very cheeky move. Bringing the pawn back. Stop. Take on e3. Right here. The very cheeky king g8.
And rook h7.
With rook h7 coming.
And now you're going to set up on the light squares, and now you might actually lose.
Yeah, that's a nice move. I completely missed. Beautiful.
Yeah, that's a
move.
nice move, king g8.
King g8.
Because I was only looking at king e8 attacking
Right.
the rook, but okay, you're just forcing me to take. That
and
one, I will do that.
You're being helpful
Oh,
again.
king
Yeah,
g8 is
rook
very
h7
nice.
to follow, and that's going
Okay.
to be annoying for white, for real.
Oh, I'm just going to be blockading you on the lights. No, this is terrible.
Party poopers. That's what you guys are.
I didn't do
mean,
anything. It wasn't me this time.
Two draws. Can I just take a look at our standings after those two
Absolutely.
draws
Yasser.
in the history books?
And we have a leader for the time being. Maxime Vachier-Lagrave achieves a result of 2.5 out of 4, a +1. We do expect him to be joined by Jan Nepomniachtchi, as that game seems completely dead drawn between Fabiano Caruana and Jan. Wang Hao should also join him in 2.5 because, well, the edges are giving white a plus, but in my understanding of chess, this endgame is a dead draw.
Exactly.
Against Kirill Alexenko. So we expect no changes at all in the standings coming into round 4, leaving round 4, as we do. I think it's going to be 4 draws for today.
which will be a first. In this tournament. We have been fated with some amazing number of decisive games. Some good games today, a real miss. And I'm looking at the game of Kirill and Wang Hao, and I'm forcibly reminded of a story that Garry Kasparov told me. He was playing in the Spartakiad. These were the internal Soviet Republic Olympiads. You know, each republic of the Soviet Union would send a team, and they had their Spartakiad. And Garry Kasparov, had an adjourned position where he had a bishop and a pawn versus an exchange. And he was trying to make a draw. And he called Michael Botvinnik in Moscow, and he said, you know, I got the situation, and he hadn't even put the position on the board. Yeah. And Botvinnik said, is your bishop protected? Does it have an anchor square? And Garry said, no. He said, you're lost.
Yeah.
And it was just like so revealing. It was like, and Garry just was just stunned by this understanding. And here you can see that black has 2 pawns.
Yes.
And an anchor square for the bishop.
Yeah.
Dead draw.
That's what I'm thinking, yeah.
I mean, nothing to discuss. Very, very, very easy draw for the black side. The bishop is powerfully protected.
And it's been agreed a draw. Wang Hao has drawn against Kirill Alexyenko. So we're really only waiting for the result of Fabiano Caruana and Jan Nepomniachtchi. And that looks even more drawn than the other game.
Right. Now, we were just thinking, who's the one
pressing
or thinking about their chances? Does black have any ideas? Does Nepo have any ideas of a6, b5? On a good day, he can trade off the b pawn for the d pawn. Just a second, I'm not done. I mean, and come rushing over to the king. And isn't that pawn on h6 weak? Ha ha ha.
No. Yeah, so you're not convincing anybody right now.
I'm going to go with no.
This one, I'm ready to give you 5-1 odds.
5-1?
5
to
1.
I mean, this position is like 50 to 1. 50.
I'm not giving
Look at this position.
Wow. It is pretty. Okay, I'll give you 7 to 1.
I'll give you 7 to 1.
As long as
odds keeps going up.
As long as your 1 is $100. I want to get 100 in the pocket.
I was about ready to reach for a Lincoln, and then he said a Benji. I'm not sure.
This one's definitely drawn.
$5, you know.
This will be the round of missed opportunities, brilliant missed opportunities for sure. This game, man, back here when he had this chance, he had a chance to play Queen D1 the first time.
Right.
But he played Queen C2. All right, no problem. No problem. Hey, the guy gives you
better
a second time, and you get to play the move. And now the position just looks so sweet. The guy goes into a big think. You get to get everything right with the world. Now it's time to centralize the queen. 90%. Okay, maybe it's not 90%, but the majority of chess players, I would say 1,800 on up. And even those lower than that would be like, don't insult us.
Right.
We would have played Queen D4. Who doesn't play Queen D4 in this position?
Exactly.
Well, the number 2 player on the planet looked at it and said, it's not enough. I don't like it. I'm not going to go for it. Instead, he played this move, Queen F3, and instantly this queen leapt into the game, and F5 showed up on the board. Imagine if your queen were here. No F5 for sure. But no, it's here, curtailed in its powers, and he missed his chance. Maxime missed his chance as well. So I think those 2 players will go back. Maxime, I don't think he saw it. Well, we know he didn't see it. We know he might have been analyzing the variation. So I don't know which move in that line, that sequence he didn't see. But somebody said, hey, Maxime, you missed this move. There's always one. It's always who's going to be the first. You missed the move. And for Maxime to go, wow, that would have been a good chance to go +2 and take over sole lead in the tournament. So let's see how he handles that he's still only tied. But guess what? He is still tied for first.
After 3 results, here it is, a tie for first between MVL and Wang Hao as they're sitting at 2.5, expecting to be caught by Jan Nepo, also with 1 game pending. I just want to go back to this game by MVL because it makes such a very powerful impression right here at this moment, because I, for one, was questioning his pawn sacrifice. He played the move bishop c1, knight takes, knight back, and already right here, he's purposely sacrificed his pawn for incredible play.
Yes,
very, exactly. So he knows what kind of compensation he is looking to achieve once he gets here. I mean, he's eyeballing e6, f7, all of these moves.
So many tactics on the position.
Exactly. And then this move, by the way, very, very nice restrained move, rook f5, and this move. And so he's really been playing for this fantastic long-term compensation. And then suddenly he comes up with a second pawn sacrifice. So then it becomes really hard to understand where his misses were, because he's played for this compensation, for this combination of moves, the entire game. And
it's like the logical follow-up. You sacrifice, you're doing strong things against your opponent's pieces, and then suddenly it's like he
misses that crucial moment right here.
But bishop a3 seems very forceful. It seems very natural. You played a4. You said A.
On the other hand,
you say B. I think, frankly, if I can. By the way, they're still playing this game, and I'm ready to give you 10-1. Yes. just saying. He's still trying. Decisive result. Whenever you're ready. Well, not whenever you're ready. I'm not giving you the whenever you're ready card. No way in the world. No, I'm giving it to you that. So this is what we have. Look, when he played a4 back here. The point was to play bishop a3. That was the point. He saw the line. He said, if you take my pawn, I play bishop a3, I play e6. Exactly what happened in the game. You must play c5, I play e6, you play f6, and I'm crashing through. I'm crashing through. That's his narrative. I'm crashing through with this opportunity. I got a pawn on e6. You're taking this. I'm taking this off. Something's dropping here. I'm getting on the 7th. I'm rolling. Maybe he was blissfully unaware. Maybe he never even thought of rook e4, the guy defends, okay, whatever. Bishop a3 is what he wanted to do. And that momentum, that inertia, just took him in the direction of his calculation. That's why he played a4. I mean, to me, that seems like the real story in the position, that like that's probably what happened. He played a4 so he could play bishop a3. And he saw this line and he thought it was good for him. Maybe he didn't think it was winning, but to think that I am now actually winning the game with rook e4 and all those and by the way, the bishop doesn't ever go to a3. The bishop ends up on g5 of all things.
Right.
That, I don't think that's the narrative. I think we, it's very easy. We don't want to be fooled by the engine showing us, this path.
Right.
Because then it looks easier than it actually was. His narrative, his mindset was a4, bishop a3. That's what I think.
And I'm seeing it as like you suckered the guy. You got the guy to put his bishop on a4. You got him to put his knight on a4 so that the pieces are discombobulated on the 4th rank. You get to play rook e4, trapping the bishop to the knight. The bishop can't move except for that bishop e6 variation, and then you sacrifice, and that's when you realize, like the beauty of your play, like everything is logically brought together.
It came together so nicely.
Right. A big miss, another big miss for Fabi. Let's bring up the Fabi position because that's the one game going.
Well, unfortunately for you guys, I am the host. I just want to see the position we have right now, because Fabi's taking forever, which means there's something he saw he didn't like.
Something's lurking.
Something's lurking. King d4 loses, by the way.
What?
King d4 loses straight up because b5 is winning. So you got to be a little bit careful.
Well, somehow my chessometer on the chessometer on the left.
I thought if you take on b5 and I go bishop b6, I was being so tricky.
And
this pawn endgame certainly must be losing.
Totally. Well, this was the dream. What I was saying is you can use the b pawn as a decoy. You get to get this pawn.
So
there's king ends
still
up
a trick
here.
after b5. If there's still a trick after b5, then this game really must be a draw.
Right.
I thought king d4 was losing because of b5.
Well, now after a little thinking,
a little
the engine
encouragement.
has
Agrees.
caught up with your assessment there, Alejandro.
Okay, yeah.
So there is a trap in the position.
There is a trap in the position.
Right.
So I was wondering, what is White's move in this position?
Okay, so I'll play naive, right, Mr.
Yeah.
Naive,
And it might be the correct way of playing.
just ask you: are you going to
I
somehow
was going to try to play the bishop on d6,
put the
then
bishop
put the
back?
bishop on f8, say maybe I have some kind of zugzwang.
Because one day you're
Zugzwang.
I don't know.
Are you
Oh,
kidding?
sorry.
Yeah,
You
I'm
want to put the
trying.
bishop on
f8.
Why are you putting the bishop on e3, Yas? Why don't you just put the bishop on d4?
I don't know.
This kind of things. Yeah, you go king e5, and then
Right.
I go b4.
Right.
Now we calculate.
And you're going here,
Yeah,
right?
and I'm definitely faster because h6 is hanging.
Exactly. Oops.
Yeah.
And you get to play b2 as well. Oh, well,
Yeah, no, but-
G5. I disagree with what I'm doing. Sorry, Maurice.
I don't understand why you just put the
You-
bishop
you
on
want me to
d4
put the bishop
and
on-
then just watch you play the rest of the game.
Maybe you have to be careful.
I'm playing
also
bishop
that-
g7 every time.
And king e8. How do we evaluate that?
Well,
you're losing. Yes, this is a losing game.
Well,
Thanks for
did
the
you
gift.
see that?
Thanks for the
I mean, it was like,
Understood.
yes. Guys waving his hand over there. Okay.
Yeah, you keep the bishop on d4. You defend with bishop g7. That looks much nicer.
Right.
Okay, nothing to see here.
Well, but again,
Fabi's thinking for a
Fabi
long
is
time,
thinking.
which
Hold
usually
on,
is an
what-
indication
Oh,
of something
boy.
not going right.
Why don't I have any time on Fabi's clock?
I think he flagged right now, and he hasn't been added his 50 minutes. So as soon as he
Okay.
makes a move, you'll see the extra time on his clock.
So just to be clear, he has not lost the
has
game
not
on
lost
time.
the game on-
Thank you. That was what I wanted to hear, the reassurance.
Kind of hard to do. It's move 41 that just got played.
Yeah.
Right.
So Fabi would have had to lose after bishop e3,
Yes. No.
but he did not.
Thank goodness.
Actually, he had to lose after a4, move 40, a4.
So he would have had to play a4 with no time on his
Right,
clock.
that would have to be the flag. But now that he's actually played 41, bishop e3, that
Right.
means that he certainly
he's
did
well
not
in the
lose
clear.
on time because it's the time control is 40 at the 40th move. So you have to lose on the 40th, not the 41st. And yeah, this is a little tricky, but bishop on d4 should get the job done, and both of them will have passed pawns, but nothing to do with them. But I got to feel like Fabi's mind isn't quite right. You know, one of those things you'll see happen often, it's the illusion of opening prep. You feel like if you're prepped from a theoretical standpoint, that should give you the advantage in the game. I feel really well prepared, you give you confidence. When you see your prep not pan out, I said this at the beginning of the tournament, it's really going to come down to form, right? More than anything else. It's going to be your confidence and your form, right? You just have to be ready to play chess. Your openings, I'll give you your openings. Look what happened to Anish Giri against Nepo. Yeah, great prep. You played fast, good. But who was playing with power in that game? Great defense, Nepo, and then he turned it around and then pure endgame technique. Who was playing all the prep in the game with Ding Liren? Fabi was. All that great prep, but h6, what kind of move is that? Showing lack of confidence. This game, again, great prep. Led where? You can get your opening preparation. Congratulations. But if you're not playing great chess after that, you're not fooling anybody. You're not just knocking these guys out. They're too good. Their defensive skills are going to be great. It's what you bring to the table after your prep that's going to make you the champ here. And that's what we're seeing. He's not in fantastic, there we call it again, fabulous form. And it's showing. It's really showing. And unless he gets it together, he's not going to be the one who challenges Magnus Carlsen for the world crown.
Well, thank you for that. I mean, one of the things that really has stood out, especially in those first 3 rounds, was defense. I mean, I remember so many games of Garry Kasparov's career. So strangely enough, before he became world champion, I mean, he became the #1 player in the world, and he was just destroying people with prep.
Yes.
I mean, guys were just falling off, dying. They were not putting up the kind of resistance that we were seeing in this tournament. The defensive skills of the players have just
Yeah, the tactic levels for a lot of top level players, it's still there. They can see tactics, they can see aggressive chess.
Calculating their technical skills.
The difference between defense now and defense then, it's night and day.
Right, remarkable.
Even some endgames we now consider to be basic, they had to be figured out. A lot of these Fischer endgames where you know, for us, it's obvious.
Right.
You know, for example, the bishop and pawn endgame. Right. You know, you have to go behind the pawn, not on the side.
Exactly.
Like, that's obvious to me because I grew up with it.
Right.
But back then, it was like such a revelation.
Right? Yeah.
And the same with a lot of defenses and openings, where you know that if you take a pawn, you're just going to grab the pawn and you're going to defend. Yeah, it looks ugly for a while, but guess what? It's a pawn, and you can just defend it. People were just falling apart. They would take the pawn and just get mated.
Exactly.
It's just a different type of chess. You were mentioning it. It's a big difference.
Sorry to say, we had hoped to bring you an interview with Ding Liren. You know how it is over there in Russia these days. Everybody's taking extra precautions.
Yes.
So we couldn't bring you an interview we'd hoped to have set up. Everybody's anxious to ask him about his games with Fabi. But okay.
Yeah, I have been told the situation is quite uncomfortable. People are refusing.
Tell us a little bit.
Yeah, they're refusing going out for walks. They're not socializing pretty much at all.
I mean, it's not just practicing social distancing. This is quarantine.
It is a quarantine situation, and you know
But I could understand that from the organizers' point of view. They don't want any player to come down with COVID-19.
Right.
So
that would be the end of the tournament.
That would be it.
Yes.
And so they are taking those triple precautionary measures.
Yeah, and sometimes we joke that you're kind of in a quarantine when you're in a chess tournament. You go like chess, eat, and you sleep. You talk to your second, and that's it.
Right.
But it's actually pretty uncomfortable for them. A lot of these players like to go out on walks. They like to, meet up with the other players, have some dinner, maybe some of the other seconds that they're friends with. A lot of the seconds are missing. A lot of the players are not allowing their seconds to even go out to the city and see anything.
Right. There you go.
That's already tough.
Right.
I mean, chess tournaments are tough on their own. And having such a restrictive routine is surely going to take a toll on a lot of these players down the road. I mean, we're only talking about 4 rounds of chess so far out of 14.
And of course, they have to think in terms of this event. You know, lockdowns are happening around the world. Will they ever get to go home? You know, like,
and sometimes even their family. We know, for example, Fabi's family is in Madrid, which is in complete and total lockdown right now. You get fined for being on the streets. Yeah, so it's a tough situation all around. And we'll see which players can cope with it better than others.
Yeah, difficult challenges indeed. Well, should we just be taking a quick break?
I think we have a couple of more.
There are a couple moves being played, and I'll say, guys, you know, when you look at a position like this and you see somebody of the class of a Fabiano Caruana and he's still making moves, you've got to imagine that he does see some danger here. And you know, I felt like, this is just a draw. It shouldn't be a problem. But looking at this position after bishop to d2, there could be some things for you to worry about. He did play king d4 here.
What was the 10?
Sorry, he actually played b5 here. But take a look at this. The engine gives this as still equal.
Right.
Still equal. You're still doing all right. So I said, okay, this king b7 move, by the way.
Yeah.
Very, very cheeky move. I said, well, what if I just wait? And the engine says you're dead.
Whoa.
Just now you're giving away a piece.
Well,
now maybe the game's not
obvious.
over, but you do have to be mindful of the opportunity for black to play king b6, play for b4, play king a5, and roll down the board.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay?
Of course.
So that is something that Fabi is starting to feel maybe that's hiding in the position, and he needs to be careful, be on the watch for this particular plan. So right now, Jan is definitely playing, well, I can't say definitely, but it's Jan who's the one who knows he has an advantage. He's got this pawn on this side, he's got the outside passed pawn, and he's starting, maybe I won't win the game, but let me give it a punt. Let's see what happens.
So what is the correct defense instead of this move, bishop d2, Maurice?
Instead of bishop to d2, moves like bishop f6, apparently get the job done.
That makes sense.
King b6 now can be met by check. Sorry, you're not coming in the game
king a5.
that quickly. There's no king a5 happening.
Gotcha.
So the bishop just has to stay on the right diagonal and wait him out.
So wait, what is the move after, for example? You just can move the king, right? Bishop d8, king a6. Yeah, what?
You want to play this. Check, king to a6.
Yeah, what is the next move for white?
And then you can wait.
Because as long as you wait on d3, b4 can be met with king c4.
Yes, he's just ready to go right to the square. So this move.
So the point is to keep the black king out of either a5 or b5.
From entering into the game. That's right.
Gotcha.
That's going to be the key. And we expect, that's what Fabi's being careful for now. So the game actually is in, if I can get the board position.
It does seem like black can just force a draw, something like.
So this is the position.
At any point.
Yeah.
Bishop d6 can be played easily.
D6.
Black knows he's not going to lose. The only threat in the position is this d pawn, and that's double blockaded. So that's not a worry. But can he somehow make the b pawn into something active?
As a decoy.
That's his question.
The only problem is there is one way for black to lose this game. And it's
Yeah,
trying to win. Once you push the pawn and your king goes behind it and your bishop is supporting it, well, suddenly the d-pawn is not protected by that many
That's
people.
true. That's true. He has to be mindful.
Yeah, as soon as he starts playing for a win, he does have to make sure that, for example, once the king's on a6, I start to worry if I can challenge the bishop on d6. Am I fast enough in the pawn endgame?
Yeah.
So those kind of things I think he definitely wants to calculate, which is why he probably will take a little bit of time to figure out his next move.
Very good. Well, we're going to sneak in a very quick break here as we continue our live coverage of the 2020 Candidates Match Round 4, as we have one game remaining after 3 have already been agreed draw.
Yeah, we'll be right back.
Can you hear it? It's the sound of hope and health and strength. It's the sound of compassion, of open doors, where people and machines are in tune and miracles occur. It's the sound of personalized healthcare and active communities. It sounds like life, and it's what you hear when you really listen.
Be surprised, be intrigued, be delighted. The World Chess Hall of Fame in St. Louis is nothing you'd expect and everything you love. 3 galleries highlight the history, culture, and creativity behind the game. Explore chess in ways you never imagined. It's a one-of-a-kind cultural institution where rare artifacts and world-class art play together. The World Chess Hall of Fame. Mind, art, experience.
St. Louis University is celebrating its 200th anniversary. Offering world-class education in the heart of St. Louis, SLU attracts students and professors from around the globe. In 2015, SLU partnered with the St. Louis Chess Club to start a top-tiered collegiate chess team. On the very first year of the team's inception, SLU obtained second best university at the Pan American Intercollegiate Chess Championships. Higher purpose, greater good. St. Louis University.
Can you hear it? It's the sound of hope and health and strength. It's the sound of compassion, of open doors, where people and machines are in tune and miracles occur. It's the sound of personalized healthcare and active communities. It sounds like life, and it's what you hear when you really listen.
Welcome back. It is round 4 of the candidates, and these are the current standings after 3 results already in today's rounds. 3 draws as Maxime Vachier-Lagrave and Wang Hao cling on to their top position. We expect they will be joined by Jan Nepomniachtchi as the 4th draw of the day. But of course, the players are still fighting it out on this one between Fabi and the Russian chess player. So,
and since our break,
moves. Nothing has happened. We still expect that to end in some sort of draw. But
if anybody's got the chance, it's definitely on Jan's side of the table.
Yeah.
He does have this pawn on b5, as Maurice mentioned going into break. This pawn on d5 sufficiently blockaded. On a really, really good day, Black's sole-winning idea would be to play b5, b3, to give up this pawn in return to get his king on d5. There will be, let's say, a white king on b3, and then he's got some chances. The problem is he can't effectuate that exchange. We were looking at Black trying to, let's make a move for white for a second. We were looking at Black trying to bring his king over to the queen side to try to penetrate through a5 and a4. this can be met
Yes.
by the bishop on d8, and Fabi could hold or draw that way. Is that the best way for him to do it, Maurice?
Best? Not necessarily, because check this out.
Okay.
While I was thinking about this position, and I know it's supposed to be a draw, but you got to at least think about it. So what does Fabi think? What is Nepo? What's taking him so long right now? Because the move bishop d6 seems called for. Well, bishop d6 does have a straight flaw. It gives up this diagonal, which is the key diagonal that black wants, right? Black wants to bring his king over. So I said, well, what if you put your bishop on a5, which seems counterintuitive? The engines don't mention it at all, but when I play bishop a5, they go, yeah, that's drawn too. No big deal. Because that's the diagonal you want. You can bring the king over if you want. I already have the diagonal.
And we finally have a move, bishop b6.
And he's decided not to concede the diagonal. He plays bishop to b6. The point is you can't get anything going here because if you try bishop f8, he's just going to play bishop d2. You play king c7. Oops, the king comes in, and now your king has to go back to d7. And you can't get any progress because it's just going to come back. So that doesn't work. So bishop a5, and if you try to get on this side, well, watch out now, because if you go straying too far, then there is that d pawn that you will have to worry about in this line, and this d pawn becomes dangerous itself. So this is another plan, this bishop a5 plan, very solid plan indeed. That shows that there are a multiplicity of ways to win this position, and
Bishop b6 check.
instead of playing this,
Bishop b6.
I guess I should say grammatically there is a multiplicity of ways to win the position. But bishop b6 check played. Looks like he can play anything. King e5, king e4, and king d3. The engines give and say, you got nothing. There's nowhere to go here.
Well,
so maybe we might see a repetition with this move. Maybe this.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. King f6, right?
Oh, yeah. Man, I was trying to get that repetition so we could go home. But it looks like this does, in fact, allow this move. Although it doesn't seem as though you're winning.
You just put the king on f7.
Because he goes like this, and if you do this, then the king goes. You could self-mate if you wanted to. some kind of king up and pawn push. Bishop b5 mate. Not going to happen.
Okay.
Okay.
So this is a draw. So everything is a draw. Bishop b6 check played. I think king e5, yeah?
I don't see what's wrong
with a suggestion of king f6?
I think the only thing you have to be careful of is that bishop c5, b4, b3 doesn't win your bishop, but it does feel like at this point black's also risking.
Are you going to play this move?
Yeah, yes. And then after king, we're going to go king e8. King e8.
Oh, you want to do this?
I wanted to trap
B3
the king
is a free tempo also, right?
Oh, B3
have
is,
to defend against,
of course. So B3, okay. Let's toss in B3. Agreed. Because you got to play bishop. Right.
C3, I guess.
That's fine, and then king
And now
back.
I actually do have, because I don't think I have opportunity as black to play bishop a3 and play the move b2 and just.
Ooh, that would be very nice.
That would be
bishop c3, bishop here.
And now I am
gift the pawn, push, give that guy, and give this guy, and you just lost everybody, and only one person could win.
But hold on, with the king going back to e8, can White's king find itself trapped?
So some sort of zugzwang maybe, like king takes h7, king f7. Now I am assuming that bishop a3 is some sort of threat.
Exactly.
Okay, but easy to stop.
And I zugzwang you like bishop d6.
Say bishop f8. Bishop f8, I like hitting the h6 pawn. Just to trying to take king on h8 out of the equation.
Well, I wanted to play bishop d6 because
you've got to be able to get on this diagonal, though.
Oh, I'm
if
sorry.
You're going to win the game.
Now I need to play
so bishop
b2.
d6 is what I wanted to play.
You want to do this one?
Yeah,
sure.
So that on bishop c1, I have bishop e5.
Well, how do you zug him if he's going to always move this
Well,
one?
I'm trying.
One step at a time.
One step at a time.
Bishop f4.
Okay.
No, but...
Okay, now
I think at that point even h7 was a draw.
What?
I think at that point even h7. You're not mating me on the diagonal. And as soon as you trade bishops, king g8 will be just a draw.
Okay, try h7 for a second.
Oh, just loses. Never mind.
Let's explain to Alejandro would like
Teach
to...
the youngster, yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Teach the youngster why it is that this is actually winning the move. G5.
Yeah.
And
G5.
you are stone cold zugzwang.
You can't move the bishop.
Can't move your bishop because the bishop will go to c1. You got an e5 mate. You can't push. He'll take it. And
Yeah, no, that's G5
no reason.
pretty
That's
convincing, yeah.
self-mate, not necessary.
It is.
Oh, but king h. king back to h7, though, and you can just go back and forth.
Right.
Yeah, you can't Zugzwang white. But
White has too many ideas. White has his d pawn. White's blockading. White's playing king h8. Looks like he has too many moves.
But one of the things that stands out about all of these variations, it's white. It's black.
Right,
it's black.
Who's because if I see these variations, I think. Well, to be fair, king e5, bishop c7, we did go king f6. You can you can go back. Right?
Well, we haven't seen a move yet, but king e5 looks compelling. King e5 almost forces black's hand. If white is fine rushing into the position and going after the h-pawn, then black really has no chance. But the thing is, if you're Caruana, you got to make sure, because you know, you guys are both going, maybe I got a little tricks thing here. Maybe there's a zug here.
Yeah, it could be a trapdoor variation.
Yeah, you sure you want to walk into this line, sir? You better make sure you see all the possibilities when you go here, and that's not that easy to calculate.
Right.
So that's going to be the trick, for him to be super confident that he can go this path, get his king frozen, and then there's no Zugzwang. If he realizes that, then no problem. But that is not simple realization. That's calculation. And that's where Fabi is going to be sitting on this position right now and might just play the safe move, which, by the way, safe moves also a draw.
Right.
But he might not go for the most forcing line.
He's playing king d3.
And there you go.
King
and there you go.
D3.
That line is so forcing. He said, let me back away and keep my, keep the, me on the safe side of the bet. Right? You just say, yeah. Why go down the line where there may be a zug somewhere and I don't see it right now? He stays on the safe side of it and he's still fine.
So the safe side being that after king d6, stepping up and attacking the pawn, king e4, and I can't squeeze my king through on the queen side because I'm actually walking into a skewer, which would be...
Even those positions where you do go with king c4, let's say I give you that move for free, they're not that clear, right?
Tell me what you...
Like if you played in one move king c4 right now, because you want to squeeze in, right?
We're going to cheat white for a second, right?
Yes.
We're going to allow... just forgive me for what I'm doing. I'm trying to
get this kind of positions. Yeah,
where somehow we cheated and we've let black's king squeeze through.
Right, and this is all very tempo dependent at that point.
Understood.
But even in that case, if it was white to move,
and this is the best case.
Best case scenario. Even if this was white to move, I think white is actually winning.
Winning.
Yeah,
wow.
I think so.
Wow.
You just go d6, and I think you're faster.
D6. Oops.
Well,
yeah.
You cheated.
I'm sorry. I was trying to get somehow a tempo. So you're saying that I cheated, and if I had gotten this position, so black has achieved his best, which was to get his king through the queen side, and you're saying.
I feel like black was in some danger, but apparently not. No, I don't think you can take directly, but you just wait a second, like before king e5.
And I'm sorry, you're stepping back with the bishop
just stepping back with the bishop. And I'm thinking king f6, king g7. I'll take on h7. Your king is too far away to really contain mine. Maybe maybe that's still the draw. You still go back in time. Yeah, and here I have, I think d7. So I'll be good. I couldn't even take on e3 and d7. Probably that's winning. Also, yeah. So it's not so clear that getting the king to c4 is actually going to be huge progress for black. Not to mention, he can't.
Wow. Okay, so we're just looking at variations that might be even on a good day.
And he's played the move bishop c5, which controls the a3 fa diagonal. That prevents white from establishing his own bishop on that one.
Okay, but we had mentioned a moment ago that maybe it was important to stop bishop a5 as establishing a draw. Okay, but bishop c5 basically says...
Bishop c3 immediately play against it?
Immediately.
Immediately. And that's
jumping right there.
Pretty dead.
Okay.
I think once the bishop gets to f6 and
we were talking about if you ever go bishop f8, bishop g7, it's a nice retort.
Yeah.
That's attractive. So bishop c3 on the board.
I don't see anything.
No. That certainly appears to be the case. Any other trickies left that you can see, Maurice?
think they're just wasting our time.
Wow.
Wow, that's harsh,
Yeah,
Maurice. I am
a
watching
lot
two
of
of the
people-
best chess players in the world.
A lot of people
all
don't have much to
loving
do
this.
here.
All about us, okay?
A lot of people don't have a lot to do, Maurice. So, I mean,
I'm just saying, this is all about us. Who cares about them? Yeah, I know. They're playing Challenge Magnus Carlsen. Wow, man, they're so vain. They think we're actually watching them.
Right.
Look, this is no. I'm kidding, of course. I think they're trying to see what they can do, but
Testing our patience.
It looks like it's going to be a draw.
Yeah. And if you're enjoying this, don't worry. There's plenty of chess left. We actually have very exciting days. I think today is.
well, I mean, we were
wasn't-
treated fantastically
Yeah.
in those first 3 rounds. And again, what a game between Fabi and Ding. But as we're seeing, our schedule.
Tomorrow we'll have round 5, then on Monday we'll have round 6, a break day on Tuesday, and then again 3 games and a rest day, 3 games and a rest day, and then the last 2 with the incredibly unlikely scenario of playoffs on April 4th, if that were to be the case.
Okay, since we have a little time, tell us why it's incredibly unlikely to be a playoff.
Because the first tie break is head-to-head. That could easily be...
So, for example, if Ding Liren and Fabiano were to tie
For first.
and
considering that Fabiano doesn't beat him in the second half of the turn. If they draw or Ding Liren wins again, and they're the ones tied at the end, and Ding Liren would be the challenger against Magnus Carlsen, because that is the first tiebreak.
It is the head-to-head matchup, which makes fair good sense.
Yes.
Now, imagine that Fabi does, in the second half, beat Ding Liren, and they both still tie for first, but now they're equal in their heads up. What's the second
The second tiebreak will be amount of victories, so amount of decisive results.
What Nigel Short likes to say, the amount of losses.
The amount of
greater,
losses, yes.
The greater your losses, the better.
The better your tiebreak.
So decisive games.
Decisive games. Currently, of course, Ding Liren is leading in that category.
So in this case, you have somebody like Grishuk, who's
draws.
undefeated.
Terrible tiebreak.
Because he gets +1, +2.
Yeah, but he's not ahead of anybody. Because
You got to go +3.
He can't. Huh?
+3 is what's winning this tournament, right?
Okay.
Yes.
Right. But
We
you
don't
can't.
think +2 is winning the tournament.
Okay, so the second criteria is the number of decisive games.
Yes. Then the third criteria is a mathematical tiebreak that I don't want to explain on air. It's a mathematical formula. You can look it up if you're really that interested. It doesn't usually go all the way there.
Right.
But by that point, it's usually stopped. I mean, really beating this mathematical tiebreak.
The mathematical formula that determined Magnus, because it wasn't their head-to-head.
And I don't think
it was the decisive game. Maybe
I think it was
the
decisive games. Yeah, I think Magnus had one more decisive game than Kramnik.
He did.
That was it.
From what I remember.
That was the 2013.
Yes,
2013. He had 5 wins and 2 losses.
And it was.
And Vladi had 1 loss and 4 wins.
Yes.
So solid play.
Not
knocked
rewarded.
them out.
Yeah, knocked them out.
That was a super exciting event, by the way. I mean, you can't beat what happened there. Magnus looked like the clear leader while he and Aronian were tied in the first half of the event. But Kramnik was languishing, like 6 straight draws or 7 straight draws. And then all of a sudden, win, draw, win, win, win. Whoa, where did he come from?
Right.
We'll recap that one in some future show. But that one was certainly very exciting with quite a lot of highlights coming out of that one.
And I remember Peter Svidler winning that last game with black.
Yes.
With black against Magnus in the last round.
That's okay, because
you could just see Team Magnus is like being despondent and then being told that they had the better tie breaks and everybody celebrated.
Well, not only that, by the
Ivanchuk
time
had
he
to win.
lost, he didn't know that Kramnik was also lost. At that point, he was already lost as well, but he didn't know it.
Yeah, wow.
And Chucky comes back and plays the game of his life. The game of the tournament, well, of his tournament in particular. After playing so badly in the first half.
Right.
But you never know, and he showed up on that last day.
That was a candidates tournament for the ages, no question about it. But in this event, I mean, again, after 4 rounds, the likelihood is we're going to see 3 players tied for first. And the tournament, as far as I can tell, is really wide open because the players are so grouped.
They're grouped together. Yep.
Well, it's really close.
But let's we've discussed this, and I think it's very important for the fans to recognize it as well, as my board is kind of acting up over here. it's important for the fans to recognize that because of this tiebreak, there's some critical results that have already occurred. The first tiebreak being head-to-head, it means that Ding Liren is in trouble against Wang Hao and Maxime Vachier-Lagrave.
Right.
He lost to both those players. They're currently essentially 2 games ahead of him. 1 point, yes, but even if he wins and they draw, then they're still ahead of him. So he has to win again and another draw for them to be tied. But let's say that happens. He wins 2 in a row and they draw 2 in a row. They're not really tied. Because if that result stayed steady all the way to the end of the event, then Ding Liren loses on tie breaks to Maxime and to Wang Hao. So he literally has to go more than +2 than their result in order for him to overtake them, unless one of his wins is against them. Then now head-to-head is even. But if he doesn't defeat them and he goes +2, let's say he wins 4 out of the remaining games, and that's going to be a tall order from this moment, but he goes +4 and they go +2, he's losing on tiebreak. So he would have had a fantastic finish, but he's going to lose on tiebreak. So those 2 players in particular. But he is ahead of Fabi, so Fabi can't afford for him to join, if they're in a race, for them to join and tie up, as you guys said, because at the end, if they're tied and Fabi didn't defeat him, then Fabi loses.
Well, we have a lot of tournament ahead. I mean, Grischuk, for example, if he surges, but not against Ding Liren, he doesn't beat Ding Liren. He just surges.
Right.
And Ding Liren surges as well. Ding Liren does have the better tiebreak against Grischuk just because he has more decisive games.
Right. So the tournament is actually weird, right?
It's very
as a
weird.
result. It's a weird because it's not just a straightforward.
But Maurice,
well,
let me interrupt you because he actually just declined the repetition. I was just going to say we're about to have a 3-fold repetition.
You were wrong.
That is the end of the game.
You were
because
wrong.
Jan could have played the move Bishop C5, claimed the draw. And Maurice would have been very happy to go home and do whatever it is he has planned the rest of the day.
Right.
But unfortunately for him, which I'm sure is social distancing, by the way.
Right.
Oh, come on. I got books to read. I want to do some exercise in the room. I'm studying some Spanish. I want to get all that stuff in. So
you were saying that after Bishop C5 was the draw.
Yeah, that would have been a repetition.
Could have been claimed, but instead he played Bishop E7, inviting a mistake. What could be his mistake?
How can Fabi lose this game?
Yeah, that seems to be my question.
I have no idea.
I mean, if he plays Bishop E5 and says...
No, that's fine.
He's good with everything.
Yeah, King D4 looks also completely fine.
Exactly.
But also, unless there's just whatever trickery, it doesn't hurt to play the move Bishop E7.
No.
If it's a draw, it's a draw. Maybe the guy will have a brain cramp and do something ridiculous, but.
Yeah, the only problem of doing that is sometimes you're the one that has a brain cramp. How many times have you done that? I've done that. You play on, you say, let's play some more moves. I know it's a draw, but we'll play on. I know that I can't really lose, so I'll just play well and not lose. And then you make a move and you're like, where was my draw? Why didn't I just take it?
The old brain cramp. I like that. Oh, man, messing up. Is that like a weakness that all of these players have to have? They have to have the arrogant contempt factor. They have to feel that
they're superior.
Exactly, and that then they overpress.
Sometimes,
it
certainly happens to all of us.
I'm more worried about Fabi in this particular case. Like yesterday, well, not yesterday, but round 3.
Yes, psychologically.
I mean, the 2-pawn sacrifice. As black, the preparation was amazing. I mean, just like beyond amazing. It's just like ridiculously good. But then, because he gets his prep, he's made these pawn sacrifices. Does he think he's winning because of this, or does he have this I'm going to win every game kind of attitude?
I think he knew he was in a complicated position, and he just tried to do the best out of it. He knew it was unclear. It was a position where he knew it was risky. He just created chances. And he found the chances. He wasn't able to make much out of them.
Right.
Kind of today, he found chances. You can't say that he didn't. He found
exactly.
some clear chances.
It was the queen f3 that spoiled what looked like a great opportunity for him.
We have more moves, so perhaps we should get to those.
After, oops, sorry. Let me just refresh my board for a second.
Yes.
Excuse me.
There you go. And
let's see the last few moves. So this is where Nepo declined the repetition with the move Bishop e7. We're mentioning that Bishop to c5 would have been a 3-timer.
Yeah,
then King d4.
Bishop d6 played, Bishop f6 played, and King c7. So this is the current position after King c7.
Okay. So is he? We had looked at any attempts to sneak up the board with King b6 and King b5. That can be met by Bishop d8 check.
Yeah, but well, you do have to make a move for white, but I don't see anything wrong with Bishop g7.
Oh, okay. So you do allow him to creepy up the board?
But Bishop e5, I think, is just a draw. I don't think you can actually take this pawn. So this bishop. Yeah, that actually loses.
Wow. That would be so easy to lose.
You just lose the queen endgame, I think. b3, king e6.
And you're just...
Yeah, you're just losing the queen endgame. I promote with check. I'll take one of your h7.
Yeah. Okay. So that's the problem. If you...
but another important line. If you take on e5...
If you go too far on the queen side, yes.
You take on e5, king c7, but I think king f6... Nope, just kidding. Oh, I go king e7, of course, like ready, right? You don't go king e7, you go king e7. So you still have to waste another tempo, and then I'm in time.
So it's like you slalom up the board.
Right.
You know, you zag and zag. You force black to make a move, and now you're in this.
So that all looks like a draw, but it's completely irrelevant because the move was Bishop g5 instead of Bishop g7.
After King
Bishop
c7
c5 was played.
Okay.
I'm assuming that now King b6 you do want to play Bishop d8.
Exactly.
And that looks, well, surprisingly,
like a draw.
Okay.
But Maurice, for one, is so very happy that the players are just exhausting every single possibility.
I know that he loves this endgame. It's the squeezing of the possibilities. He loves this fighting spirit.
Right.
I know Maurice is all about this kind of positions.
Exactly. This is where he really, really gets himself all excited.
Oh, right, Mo? It's wonderful. It's great. It's awesome.
Awesome.
Can't believe it.
He is not going salsa dancing tonight, by the way, folks. I mean,
no, that's...
I see you stepping there like...
That's not going to happen.
Like, let's go.
Even if I did, the place would not be open. That's for sure.
Oh, man.
But I did salsa in my room by myself, unfortunately, but... That's what you got to do. You got to stay in shape, folks. You got to stay in shape. You got to stay physical, whatever you got to do. The gym might not be open, but you've got to stay physical. Stay physical, stay positive, stay productive.
In these days where we're finding everybody self-isolating in quarantine, are you doing streaming? It just seems to me like the whole world, and not just the chess world, but the music world as well, they're doing streaming. Have you seen some of these... I want to say online concert with all of these amateur singers around the world. It's some stuff I've seen.
I haven't seen that specifically, but
it's nice.
I do join Twitch.
Okay.
And usually I go to either one of the chess channels or one of the Dota channels just to see what's up, because that's my game of choice.
Right.
And usually, Twitch has X amount of people.
Right.
I've been on Twitch the last few days. It's like X times 5 or times 6.
Right.
It's booming.
Explosive.
I mean, all kinds of video games are being played. There's like a Just Chat channel that just exploded, and people like talking to each other online. It's crazy.
I wanted to give a shout out to Alexandra.
Botes, of course.
She's hosting a tournament, which I thought was pretty cool.
Yes.
Isolated Queens?
The Isolated Queens tournament. Actually pretty cool. I believe it's going to happen at 2 p.m. Eastern time or at 1 p.m. Central today.
Our social media director, Eric Rosen, said he's set up Katja.
And a lot of strong players will be participating. Tatev Abrahamian, who's also with us very often here at the club. I believe that a former world champion, Alexander Kosteniuk, is going to be streaming and playing at the same time. So it should be a fun event. Yeah, and I like the name of the tournament, Isolated Queens.
That's great.
Very cool.
No, I mean, you got to be inspire us. I mean, in these harsh times, give us something to do. And I thought that was very playful. And I wanted to give her a shout out.
Really when we're done here, I'll have some lunch, and I think I'll tune in.
Okay, very good, very good. So,
you sure you all need to have dinner?
Queens.
Dinner? You think they're going to go the long run, Maurice?
I'm just saying, the way this game is going, maybe blowing past lunch. Well, not likely. I know, yeah.
Gallows humor. Come on.
Yeah,
the time control is only 3 time controls, Maurice.
But there's that 30-second increment. You know,
that's the forever.
Keep playing. Wow. Okay. Well, this one does look like it should be a draw, but Nepo says, I ain't got anything better to do. I don't want to go isolate in the room.
Right.
So let's keep playing. I do want to go back to this game, though. This game, we could go back to, where are we? Let's go all the way back. We could be talking about this game for months.
Exactly.
And this one was such a huge game. And this game is something that Fabiano will remember, depending on how his result goes in this tournament. If he ends up not bringing home the bacon, he will remember this game because his preparation with the move E5 was just such a fabulous, incredibly interesting shot. And after the pawn was captured, this deflecting shot with bishop to C2, trying to get at this D pawn with his queen. But Ding Liren said, you know, I could have played safely, but I just thought that's not my style. I don't want to draw. Then the C4 move, a second pawn sacrifice. And again, Ding Liren said, I'm going to take it. And this position, it's not clear that everything is forced here. And this move, Queen F5, instead of going back home with Queen C1, that showed the audacity of the number 3 player in the world. Ding Liren said, I'm going to just see what happens. I don't see a forcing line. I don't see this as being finished. Let us play. And the thing, as far as Fabi's concerned, is he knows he's got great initiative. He's got the lead in development, the exposed white king, but he did give up 2 pawns for it. And now he's got to prove it. Now, show us. You've gotten the 2 pawns. Is it winning or is it just initiative? Because you know what happens with initiative. If you slow down, your initiative dries up and you are in trouble. And what happened here? Takes, Queen C7, all attacking moves, Bishop C5. Here he had the chance to play Rook E5, he took, and it was at this moment on move 22. Again, he is still down 2 pawns. He's got the initiative still. He's got the queen, he's got the pieces. Black knows that white can't develop so easily. Where are the attacking moves, though? What show us? Bring it home. A move like Rook E5 looks strong. Queen B4 looks also possible. It was this slow move, 8-6, that had all of us scratching our heads. What's this about in this kind of sharp position? So that shows you can have prep, you can have initiative, but if you don't have form, it's not enough. It's not enough. You got to be in the moment and play those moves. And it was Ding Liren who showed, okay, you slowed things down. Now I'm going to push you back, and ended up consolidating those 2 pawns and winning the game.
Wow. Thank you for that, Maurice, that remembrance of 2 days ago. I just want to say we've got a special friend joining us.
It's Christian Kirilla from, well, where are you, Christian, actually? Or are you quarantined?
Colombia.
Hello, guys. Good to hear you. I'm actually in the castle, in the Count's castle.
In the Count's castle.
I'm isolated here, of course, as you guys have seen in my previous video for you. Just enjoying myself, listening to your commentary. You guys are doing a fantastic job, as usual. And enjoying the games. A lot of fun games so far. A very strange candidates so far, I want to say. Obviously, we're seeing some amazing preparation, but at the same time, you have to beg the question, what's happening in these guys' minds right now, in these guys' psyche, with everything that's going on in the world? How are they keeping composed? You know, that's the key question, and I think this is going to be the key factor playing into the later rounds.
Christian, today's round especially, we saw 2 I think, enormous missed opportunities by MVL and Fabi. Two potential victories that will likely end in a draws. Some other missed opportunities. Talk about that for a second.
To be honest, I think Fabiano's missed opportunity, of course, with a computer is very easy to see, but I think practically it was a very difficult situation to understand. You had to play this queen d4 followed by queen e4, block the king back, followed by bishop d4, bishop g7. Of course, it's a maneuver that whenever he's in good shape, he's going to find. But if he's not, then queen f3 obviously was a bad move. But I think this was much less of a missed opportunity than what MVL did. He had 45 minutes, 50 minutes at the time of the critical moment when he was able to play rook e4. In my opinion, that was just unacceptable. At his level, it was just simply unacceptable to miss the critical moment, because there's so many pieces attacked, right? There's very few options. Yes, the critical moment where he could have played rook to e4. I think that's Alexeyenko's game.
I'll bring up that moment that you're describing, because we were avidly analyzing that precise situation, and it was right here, this beautiful move a4, coaxing the knight to a4 where it was vulnerable. And here you're being very, very critical indeed, Christian. You're saying rook e4, you, MVL, with all the time you had on your clock, you should find this move. Go ahead.
Well, to be honest, I think he saw this move leading up to this position, and before he played the move a4. For whatever reason, I think he just simply forgot immediately after Grishuk took on a4. I think he forgot about the option and got coaxed into this bishop a3 idea.
Well, what would coax him? Why would you say that? The move is so compelling.
It's a nice check. You're going to get. It's a nice check. You're going to get your material back. Most likely, you get the rook on f5 very active via c5 by force, and that's visually very appealing, in my opinion. But again,
we do have a result. I just wanted to say, between Fabiano Caruana and Jan Nepomniachtchi, the game has predictably ended in a draw.
Really?
Let's see those final moves. But before, go ahead and finish your thought, Christian, and then we're going to be wrapping up very quickly. You're saying that visually this is very attractive.
It is very attractive. The rook is going on the 7th rank. You're going to be equal pawns, or maybe even a pawn up if your opponent goes with a king to f8. But it just looks visually appealing from White's perspective to get into this situation, and you're not risking anything. At the same time, finish your calculation, spend 10-15 minutes on rook e4, understand the consequences, and play it. You're a 2800 player, so just play it.
Thank you, Christian, for joining us. Make it a habit. We'll see you later.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, guys. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Maurice, take us through the very final moves and give us your final thoughts for this 4th round, where all the games were drawn, by the way.
It was a bishop d8 check, a king d3, bishop f8, king d4, bishop d6, and the players agreed to a draw. As you said, 4 draws in this round, a couple of real missed opportunities there. It happens in all tournaments that the players miss their chances. They have to bounce back. They don't want to just be kicking themselves. They have to bounce back and say, still a long way to go. We've done with 4. 10 more rounds left. So it should be an exciting day tomorrow as the players play in this unusual set, under these unusual set of circumstances. And I expect more excitement. You're going to see more missed opportunities. That's just the way chess tournaments are. Lot of pressure, a lot of tension on the line.
All right. Thank you, Maurice, for that. Let's take a look at our final standings.
It's Maxime Vachier-Lagrave, Wang Hao, and Jan Nepomniachtchi with 2.5 points out of 4. Alexander Grishuk and Fabiano Caruana at 50%. Even though we do have a randomized order for now, because this won't count until the end, but Fabiano would have the better tiebreak in this position because he has more decisive games.
So you'd like to see the Fabi and Grishuk's flipping position there.
Just details,
just
right?
a little
bit of a detail. And meanwhile, Anish Giri Dingler and Kirill Alexeyenko, they are currently tied for 6th. with 1.5 points. Very tight tournament. One decisive game could change everything.
Right.
And
from lowliest to holiest
yeah.
in a single flip. We do have our round and our usual time tomorrow, everybody. I was just going to ask our producers, can I take a quick peek at what is coming up for tomorrow's
if we have the pairings for tomorrow.
Rounds? I'm just very curious.
Of course we have them. Round 5.
Here we come.
Anish Giri with the white pieces will be facing Fabiano Caruana. Alexander Grischuk with white against Ding Liren. That's a big game.
Yeah. Okay, sorry.
Kirill Alexenko with the white pieces against MVL. I think that's also a very big game because MVL can score with the black pieces. That would be great if Kirill can score with white. He's back in the tournament.
And a matchup of our two players tied for first.
I think that's the one we're going to have to focus our attention on because these are wild players. Jan Nepomniachtchi playing against Wang Hao. Jan with the white pieces.
Good pairings.
Predictable.
Good pairings.
Yeah. Absolutely great.
Very nice indeed. And of course, we'll be starting at our regular time here from St. Louis, 8 a.m. in our mornings. So
make sure to join us. We'll
exactly.
be here tomorrow. Don't miss it. And spend your Sunday with us, or at least the morning half.
And thank you for sharing your weekend thus far.
And we'll be back.